ABC of Fox Hunting, consisting of 26 colored illustrations, by the late Sir John Dean Paul Bart. Read for LibriVox.org by stepheather, 7th of November, 2024, Bangalore, India. A was Andrews my man, who was A1 his art in. B my buckskins and boots, ready for me to start in. C the cover hack, giving my lord's drag the go-by. D the slap-up dog-cart, which the driver you know by. E was the earth-stopper, early and willing. F were the foxhounds, so far famed for killing. G was the gorse-cover, certain for foxes. H were the hunters, just fresh from their boxes. I was the innkeeper, filling snobs' glasses. J was the jumping lot, taking the grasses. K was the keeper, all foxes the foe of. L were the little boys, bound for the throw-off. M was the master, who gave the view holla. N was the nobody, craning to follow. O was the old whipper-in, lifting tail-hounds. P was the parson, ne'er known yet to fail hounds. Q was the queer place, which puzzled the craners. R was the racing pace, pumping complainers. S was the stile and ditch we jumped in clover. T was the tumble, which turned my lord over. U was the upland, where we viewed the fox in. V was the very last field, just 5 frocks in. W worry him, woo whoop, can't Joe shout it. X, XX, who can go home without it? Y were the yeomen, each yarning his story. Z was the zany, all alone in his glory. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
London Docks, Anchors by Cicely Fox Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Fenman. In a breaker's yard by the Millwall docks, with its piled-up litter of sheaveless blocks, stranded hawsers and links of cable, a cabin lamp and a chart-room table, nail-sick timbers and heaps of metal, rusty and red as an old tin kettle, scraps that were ships in the years gone by, fluke upon stock, the anchors lie. Every sort of make of anchor for trawler or tugboat, tramp or tanker, anchors little and anchors big, for every build and for every rig. Old wooden stocked ones fit for the ark, stockless and squat ones ugly and stark, anchors heavy and anchors small, mushroom and grapnel and kedge and all. Mouldy old mud hooks, there they lie. Have they ever a dream as the days go by of the tug of the tides on coasts afar, a northern light and a southern star, the mud and sand of a score of seas and the chuckling ebb of 100 quays, the harbour sights and the harbour smells, the swarming junks and the temple bells? Roar of the surf on coral beaches, rose-red sunsets on landlocked reaches, strange gay fishes in cool lagoons, and palm-thatched cities in tropic noons, song of the pine and sigh of the palm, river and roadstead storm and calm. Do they dream of them all now their work is done, and the neaps and the springs at the last are won? And only the tides of London flow, restless and ceaseless to and fro. Only the traffic's rush and roar seems a breaking wave on a far-off shore, and the wind that wanders the sheds among, the ghost of an old-time anchor song. Bright plates and pannikins to sail the seas around, and a new donkey's breakfast for the outward bound. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Antigonish by William Hughes Mearns. Read for LibriVox.org by Dale Grothmann. Yesterday, upon the stair, I saw a man who wasn't there. He wasn't there again today. I wish he'd go away. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Artist's Life by Ella Wheeler Wilcox, read for LibriVox.org by Julie Ann Thompson. Of all the waltzes the great Strauss wrote, mad with melody, rhythm, rife, from the very first to the final note, give me his artist's life. It stirs my blood to my finger's end, thrills me and fills me with vague unrest, and all that is sweetest and saddest blends it together within my breast. It brings back that night in the dim arcade, in love's sweet morning and life's best prime, when the great brass orchestra played and set our thoughts to rhyme. It brings back that winter of mad delights, of leaping pulses and tripping feet, in those languid, moon-washed summer nights when we heard the band in the street. It brings back rapture and glee and glow. It brings back passion and pain and strife. And so of all the waltzes I know, give me the artist's life. For it is so full of the dear old time, so full of the dear old friends I knew, and under its rhythm and lilt and rhyme, I am always finding you. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
As You Go Through Life by Ella Wheeler Wilcox, read for LibriVox.org by Roger Smith. As you go through life, don't look for flaws as you go through life, and even when you find them, it is wise and kind to be somewhat blind and look for the virtue behind them. For the cloudiest night has a hint of light somewhere in its shadows hiding. It is better by far to hunt for a star than the spots on the sun abiding. The current of life runs ever away to the bosom of God's great ocean. Don't set your force against the river's course and think to alter its motion. Don't waste a curse on the universe. Remember it lived before you. Don't butt at the storm with your puny form, but bend and let it go o'er you. The world will never adjust itself to suit your whims to the letter. Some things must go wrong your whole life long, and the sooner you know it, the better. It is folly to fight with the infinite, and go under at last in the wrestle. The wiser man shapes into God's plan, as water shapes into a vessel. End of recording. This recording is in the public domain.
The Ballad of Dead Ladies by Dante Gabriel Rossetti. Read for LibriVox.org by Ike Sherr. From the French of François Villon, 1450. Tell me now, in what hidden way is Lady Flora the lovely Roman? Where's Hipparchia? And where is Thais, neither of them the fairer woman? Where is Echo, beheld of no man, only heard on river and mere, she whose beauty was more than human? But where are the snows of yesteryear? Where's Eloise the learned nun, for whose sake Abelard, I ween, lost manhood, but put priesthood on? From love he won such duel and teen. And where, I pray you, is the queen who willed that Buridan should steer sewed in a sack's mouth down the Seine? But where are the snows of yesteryear? White Queen Blanche, like a queen of lilies with a voice like any mermaiden, Bertha Broadfoot, Beatrice, Alice, and Ermengarde, the Lady of Maine, and that good Joan whom Englishmen at Rouen doomed and burnt her there. Mother of God, where are they then? But where are the snows of yesteryear? Nay, never ask this week, fair lord, where they are gone, nor yet this year, except with this for an overword. But where are the snows of yesteryear? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Because I Could Not Stop for Death by Emily Dickinson. Read for LibriVox.org by Colleen Booker. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too, for his civility. We passed the school where children strove at recess in the ring. We passed the fields of grazing grain. We passed the setting sun. Or rather, he passed us. The dews drew quivering and chill, for only gossamer my gown, my tippet only tulle. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Blizzard by William Carlos Williams. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Snow. Years of anger following hours that float idly down. The blizzard drifts its weight deeper and deeper for 3 days. Or 60 years, eh? Then the sun. A clutter of yellow and blue flakes. Hairy-looking trees stand out in long alleys over a wild solitude. The man turns, and there his solitary track stretched out upon the world. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Change by John Frederick Freeman. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. I am that creature and creator who loosens and rains the waters of the sea, forming the rocky marge anon anew. I stir the cold breasts of antiquity, and in the soft stone of the pyramid move worm-like, and I flutter all those sands, whereunder lost and soundless time is hid. I shape the hills and valleys with these hands, and darken forests on their naked sides, and call the rivers from the vexing springs, and lead the blind winds into deserts strange, and in firm human bones the ill that hides is mine, the fear that cries, the hope that sings. I am that creature and creator, change. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The City is Peopled by H.D. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston, Tharp. The city is peopled with spirits, not ghosts, O my love. Though they crowded between and usurped the kiss of my mouth, their breath was your gift, their beauty your life. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
London Docks, Coastwise by Cicely Fox Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Fenman. The ships that trade foreign to London they bear, their cargoes unnumbered, both common and rare. their bales and their gunny sacks, tea chests and cases, from all kinds of countries and all sorts of places, their copra and teakwood, their rum and their bacca, their rice and their spice, from Rangoon and Malacca, their sugar and sago from far Singapore, and lumber and logwood and manganese ore. But they that trade coastwise, unceasing do ply, on lawful occasions, to Ramsgate and Rye, to Lowestoft and Lymington, Padstow and Poole, and Falmouth and Fowey, and Galston and Goole. The North Country colliers, smutty and small, the barges and Borleys and schooners and all, the Janes and Elizas and Bells and the rest, two brothers, Trafalgar and Pride of the West. The ships that trade foreign, wide oceans they know, far down to the southward they see the whales blow. Great bergs like cathedrals they likewise behold, and flying fish shining, all silver and gold. They know the far islets of pearl and of pine, the trades and the tempests from Lewin to Line. From the Horn to the Hooghly their smoke trail is curled, and their bow wave is white on the seas of the world. But they that trade coastwise, they know the salt seas that surge evermore round the grey mother's knees, the tide rips and swatchways, the deeps and the shoals, each eddy that dimples, each current that rolls, by longships and lizard, by bishop and clerk, and the fangs of the manacles, deadly and dark, by reef and by sandbank, by headland and home, the Scilly's lone outposts of thunder and foam. The ships that trade foreign see cities afar, where the black and the brown and the yellow folk are, the tin towns and timber towns, mud towns and all, from the Straits of Le Maire to the Bay of Bengal. Of Rio and Sydney the charms they compare, and others name Frisco than either more fair. The lordly St. Lawrence they mark in his flow, and Fraser and Hudson and mighty Wang Ho. But they that trade coastwise know little stone quays, with old salts a-smoking and taking their ease. The smell of the seaweed, the nets in the sun, the snug little tavern where old yarns are spun, the coastguard, the flagstaff, the boats in the bight, the herring gulls mewing by day and by night, the flash of the lighthouse that flings forth its ray to ships trading foreign that pass on their way. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Cornerstone by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Sterile these stones, by time in ruin laid, yet many a creeping thing its haven has made in these least crannies, where falls dark's dew and noonday shade. The claw of the tender bird finds lodgment here, dye-winged butterflies poise, emmet and beetle steer their busy course, the bee drones laden near, their myriad mirrored eyes great day reflect, by their exquisite fairings is this granite specked, is trodden to infinite dust by gnawing lichens decked. Toward what eventual dream sleeps its cold on, when into ultimate dark these lives shall be gone, and even of man not a shadow remain of all he has done. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Cure's Progress by Austin Dobson. Read for LibriVox.org by Ike Sherr. Monsieur, the cure down the street, comes with his kind old face, with his coat worn bare, and his straggling hair, and his green umbrella case. You may see him pass by the little Grande Place and the tiny Hôtel de Ville. He smiles as he goes to the Floriste Rose and the Pompier Théophile. He turns us a rule through the Marche cool, where the noisy fishwives call, and his compliment pays to the belle Thérèse as she knits in her dusky stall. There's a letter to drop at the locksmith's shop, and Toto, the locksmith's niece, has jubilant hopes, for the cure gropes in his tales for a pain d'épices. There's a little dispute with a merchant of fruit, who is said to be heterodox, that will ended be with a ma foi, oui, and a pinch from the cure's box. There is also a word that no one heard to the furrier's daughter, Lou, and a pale cheek fed with a flickering red, and a ben Dieu garde, monsieur. But a grander way for the sous-préfet, and a bow from Mademoiselle Anne, and a mock off-hat to the notary's cat, and a nod to the sacristian. For ever through life the cure goes, with a smile on his kind old face, with his coat worn bare, and his straggling hair, and his green umbrella case. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Diogenes by Harry Graham. Read for LibriVox.org by Tony Scheinman. He stopped inside a tub from choice, but otherwise was well conducted, although he raised a rasping voice to persons who his view obstructed, and threw a boot at anyone who robbed him of his patch of sun. And thus he lived without expense, arrayed in somewhat scant apparel, his customary residence the limits of an empty barrel. His spirits would perforce be good, maturing slowly in the wood. With lamp alight, he sought at night for honest men, his ruling passion. But either he was short of sight, or honest men were out of fashion. He never found one, so he said. They probably were all in bed. At last, when he was very old, he got abducted by a pirate, and to a man of Corinth sold at an exorbitantly high rate. His owner called him Sonny Jim, and made an indoor pet of him. And soon, as one may well suppose, he learnt the very choicest manners, could balance sugar on his nose, or sit right up and smoke Havanas, or swim into the pond for sticks. There was no limit to his tricks. He never tasted wine nor meat, but ate in full and plenteous measure grape-nuts and force and shredded wheat, pretending that they gave him pleasure. At length, at 89, he died, of a too strenuous inside. Had but this worthy cynic been a member of our favored nation, Niagara he might have seen and realized a new sensation, if he had set himself the task to brave the rapids in his cask. Or, if his ghost once more began with lighted lamp his ancient mission, and searched the city for a man whose honesty outsoared suspicion, we could provide him, in New York, a nice, if somewhat lengthy, walk. Moral. Though thumping tubs is easy work, with which no critic cares to quarrel, there may be charms about a Turk. Policemen even may be moral, and, though they never get found out, there are some honest men about. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Door by Ulrich Johns. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. Love is a proud and gentle thing, a better thing to own than all of the wide impossible stars over the heavens blown. And the little gifts her hand gives are careless given or taken. And though the whole great world break, the heart of her is not shaken. Love is a vial in the wind, a vial never stilled, and mine of all is the surest that ever God has willed. I shall speak to her though she goes before me into the grave, and though I drown in the sea, herself shall laugh upon a wave. And the things that love gives after shall be as they were before, for life is only a small house, and love is an open door. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Explorer by W. E. Sollenberger, from the Popular Magazine, April 1929. Read for LibriVox.org by Dale Grothmann. I have seen a trackless valley, filled with virgin spruce and pine. I have smoked a pipe on mountains where the very sky seemed mine. I have wandered through an outland where the rivers were unnamed, full of countless, chartless rapids that no man had ever tamed. A wild country, old and shadowed by a past that's living still. The ancient trees stand rooted where the ancient beasts made kill. The ancient rocks are splitting, forming torrents that have flowed since the very dawn of history, when the mighty glaciers rode. Straight across primeval mountains, on their slow earth-crunching feet, I have seen this untouched region, and it's facing a retreat. For earth is man's inheritance, and his breed, unlike the rest, cannot leave it as he finds it, though he finds it at his best. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Fire by Wilfred Wilson Gibson. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. In each black tile a mimic fire's aglow, and in the hearthlight old mahogany, ripe with stored sunshine that in Mexico poured like gold wine into the living tree, summer on summer through a century, burns like a crater in the heart of night, and all familiar things in the ingle light glow with a secret strange intensity. And I remember hidden fires that burst suddenly from the midnight while men slept, long smoldering rages in the darkness nursed, that to an instant ravening fury leapt, and the old terror menacing evermore, a crumbling world with fiery molten core.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
London Docks, Ghosts in Deptford by Cicely Fox Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Fenman. If ghosts should walk in Deptford, as very well they may, a man might find the night there more stirring than the day, might meet a Russian Tsar there, or see, in Spain's despite, Queen Bess ride down to Deptford to dub Sir Francis Knight. And loitering here and yonder, and jostling to and fro, in every street and alley, the sailor folk would go. All colours, creeds, and nations, in fashion old and new. If ghosts should walk in Deptford, as like enough they do. And there'd be some with pigtails, and some with buckled shoes, and smocks and caps like pirates, that sailors once did use, and high-sea boots and oilskins, and tarry dungaree, and shoddy suits men sold them when they came fresh from sea. And there'd be stout old skippers, and mates of mighty hand, and chinks and swarthy dagoes, and Yankees lean and tanned, and many a hairy shellback burned black from southern skies, and brass-bound young apprentice with boyhood's eager eyes. And by the river reaches, all silver to the moon, you'd hear the shipwrights' hammers beat out a phantom tune. The caulkers' ghostly mallets rub-dub their faint tattoo. If ghosts should walk in Deptford, as very like they do. If ghosts should walk in Deptford, and ships return once more to every well-known mooring and old familiar shore, a sight it were to see there, of all fine sights there be, the shadowy ships of Deptford come crowding in from sea. Cog, carrack, buss and dromond, pink, pinnace, snake and snow, queer rigs of antique fashion that vanished long ago, with tall and towering forecastles and curving carven prows, and gilded great poop lanterns, and scrolled and swelling bows. The Baltic bark that foundered in last month's North Sea gales, and last year's lost Cape Horner, with the Wonder on her sails. Black tramp and stately liner should lie there side by side. Aye, all should berth together upon that silent tide. In dock and pond and basin, so close the keel should lie, their hulls should hide the water, their masts make dark the sky, and through their tangled rigging the netted stars should gleam like gold and silver fishes from some celestial stream. And all their quivering royals and all their singing spars should send a ghostly music, a shivering to the stars, a sound like Norway forests when wintry winds are high, or old dead seamen's shanties from great old days gone by, till eastward over Limehouse, on river, dock and slum, all shot with pearl and crimson, the London dawn should come. And fast at flash of sunrise, and swift at break of day, the shadowy ships of Deptford should melt like mist away. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Gold by Auric Johns. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. The mountains fashioned for a drug to sway earth's brawny sons from visions of the skies, a gleaming metal that the living slay to win, and dead men wear upon their eyes. I thank them for it, that one day we woke and walked the streets, too desperate to will our footsteps, and then laughing quick, you broke our last 10 cents to buy a daffodil. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Homeward by Cicely Fox Smith. read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. Behind a trench in Flanders, the sun was dropping low. With tramp and creak and jingle, I heard the gun teams go. And something seemed to mind me, a-dreaming as I lay, of my own old Hampshire village at the quiet end of day. Brown thatch and gardens blooming with lily and with rose, and the cool shining river so pleasant where he flows. Wide fields of oats and barley and elderflower like foam, and the sky gold with sunset, and the horses going home. Home, lads, home, all among the corn and clover. Home, lads, home, when the time for work is over. Oh, there's rest for horse and man when the longest day is done, and they go home together at the setting of the sun. Old Captain, Prince and Blossom, I see them all so plain, with tasselled ear caps nodding along the leafy lane. There's a bird somewhere calling, and the swallow flying low, and the lads are sitting sideways and singing as they go. Well, gone is many a lad now, and many a horse gone too. Of all those lads and horses in those old fields I knew. There's Dick that died at Quinchy, and Prince beside the guns, on the red road of glory, a mile or two from Mons. Dead lads and shadowy horses, I see them just the same. I see them and I know them, and name them each by name. Going down to shining waters when all the west's aglow, and the lads sitting sideways and singing as they go. Home, lads, home, with the sunlight on their faces. Home, lads, home, to those quiet, happy places. There's rest for horse and man when the hardest fight is done, and they go home together at the setting of the sun. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Last Leaf by Oliver Wendell Holmes. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. I saw him once before, as he passed by the door, and again the pavement stones resound as he totters o'er the ground with his cane. They say that in his prime, ere the pruning knife of time cut him down, not a better man was found by a crier on his round through the town. But now he walks the streets, and he looks at all he meets sad and wan, and he shakes his feeble head, that it seems as if he said, "They are gone." The mossy marbles rest on the lips that he has pressed in their bloom, and the names he loved to hear have been carved for many a year on the tomb. My grandmamma has said, poor old lady, she is dead long ago, that he had a Roman nose, and his cheek was like a rose in the snow. But now his nose is thin, and it rests upon his chin like a staff, and a crook is in his back, and a melancholy crack in his laugh. I know it is a sin for me to sit and grin at him here, but the old three-cornered hat, and the breeches, and all that are so queer. And if I should live to be the last leaf upon the tree in the spring, let them smile, as I do now, at the old forsaken bough where I cling. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Maiden and the Lily by John Fraser. Read for LibriVox.org by Sherr. A lily in my garden grew amid the thyme and clover. No fairer lily ever blew, search all the wide world over. Its beauty passed into my heart. I know 'twas very silly, but I was a foolish maid, and it a perfect lily. One day a learned man came by, with years of knowledge laden, and him I questioned with a sigh, like any foolish maiden. Why, sir, please tell me wherein lies, I know the question's silly, the something that my art defies, and makes a perfect lily. He smiled, then bending plucked the flower, then tore it, leaf and petal, and talked to me for full an hour, and thought the point to settle. Therein it lies, at length he cries, and I know 'twas silly, could only weep and say, but where, O doctor, where's my lily? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Mari Magno by Arthur Hugh Clough. Read for LibriVox.org by Arden. January 8, 2024. Mari Magno, or Tales on Board. Footnote: these tales were written only a few months before the writer's death, and had never been revised by him. This may perhaps excuse the somewhat unfinished state in which they necessarily appear. 1862. End footnote. A youth was I, an elder friend but me. 'Twas in September o'er the autumnal sea we went, the wide Atlantic Ocean o'er, to amongst many the strong steamer bore. Delight it was to feel that wondrous force that held us steady to our purposed course, the burning resolute victorious will, 'gainst winds and waves that strive unwavering still. Delight it was with each returning day to learn the ship had won upon her way her sum of miles. Delight were mornings grey and gorgeous eves, nor was it less delight on each more temperate and favouring night. Friend with familiar or with new-found friend, to pace the deck and o'er the bulwark spend, and the night watches in long converse spend, while still new subjects and new thoughts arise amidst the silence of the seas and skies. Amongst the mingled multitude a few, some 3 or 4, towards us early drew. We proved each other with a day or two. Night after night some 3 or 4 we walked, and talked, and talked, and infinitely talked. Of the New England ancient blood was one. His youthful spurs and letters he had won, unspoilt by that, to Europe late had come. Hope long deferred, and one unspoilt by Europe home. What racy tales of Yankee land he had! Up-country girl, up-country farmer lad, the regnant clergy of the time of old, in wig and gown, tales not to be retold by me. I could but spoil, were I to tell. Himself must do it who can do it well. An English clergyman came spick and span, in black and white, a large, well-favoured man, 50 years old, as near as one could guess. He looked a dignitary, more or less. A rural dean, I said, he was at least. Canon, perhaps. At many a good man's feast a guest had been, amongst the choicest there. Manly his voice and manly was his air. At the first sight you felt he had not known the things pertaining to his cloth alone. Chairman of quarter sessions had he been? Serious and calm, 'twas plain he much had seen. Had miscellaneous large experience had, of human acts, good half and bad. Serious and calm, yet lurked, I know not why, at times, a softness in his voice and eye. Some shade of ill, a prosperous life had crossed. Married, no doubt, a wife or child had lost. He never told us why he passed the sea. My guardian friend was now, at 33, a rising lawyer, ever at the best. Slow rises worth in lawyer's gown compressed. Succeeding now, yet just, and only just. His new success he never seemed to trust. By nature he to gentlest thoughts inclined. To most severe had disciplined his mind. He held it duty to be half unkind. Bitter, they said, who but the exterior knew, and friendship never was a friend so true. The unwelcome fact he did not shrink to tell. The good, if fat, he recognized as well. Stout to maintain, if not the first to see, in conversation who so great as he. Leading but seldom, always sure to guide, to false or silly if 'twas borne aside. His quick correction silent he expressed, and stopped you short, and forced you to your best. Often, I think, he suffered from some pain of mind that on the body worked again. One felt it in his sort of half disdain, impatient not, but acrid in his speech. The world with him her lesson failed to teach, to take things easily and let them go. He, for what special fitness I scarce know, for which good quality, or if for all, with less of reservation and recall, and speedier favour than I e'er had seen, took, as we called him, to the rural dean. As grew the gourd, as grew the stalk of bean, so swift it seemed, betwixt these differing two, a stately trunk of confidence upgrew. Of marriage long one night they held discourse, regarding it in different ways, of course. Marriage is discipline, the wise had said, a needful human discipline to wed. Novels, of course, depict it final bliss. Say, had it ever really once been this? Our Yankee friend, whom, ere the night was done, we called New England or the Pilgrim Sun, a little tired, made bold to interfere. Appeal, he said, to me, my sentence here. You'll reason on till night and reason fail. My judgment is you each shall tell a tale. And as on marriage you cannot agree, of love and marriage let the stories be. Sentence delivered, as the younger man, my lawyer friend was called on and began. The lawyer's tale. Love is fellow service. A youth and maid upon a summer night, upon the lawn, while yet the skies were light. Edmund and Emma, let their names be these, among the shrubs within the circling trees, joined in a game with boys and girls at play, for games perhaps too old a little they. In April she her 18th year begun, and 20 he, and near to 21. A game it was of running and of noise. He as a boy, with other girls and boys, her sisters and her brothers, took the fun. And when her turn, she marked not, came to run. Emma he called, then knew that he was wrong, knew that her name to him did not belong. Her look and manner proved his feeling true. A child no more, her womanhood she knew. Half was the colour mounted on her face, her tardy movement had an adult grace. Vexed with himself, and shamed, he felt the more, a kind of joy he ne'er had felt before. Something there was that from this date began. 'Twas beautiful with her to be a man. 2 years elapsed, and he who went and came, changing in much, in this appeared the same. The feeling, if it did not greatly grow, endured and was not wholly hid below. He now, o'ertasked at school, a serious boy, a sort of after boyhood to enjoy, appeared, in vigour and in spirit high, and manly grown, but kept the boy's soft eye, and full of blood, and strong and lithe of limb. To him 'twas pleasure now to ride, to swim. The peaks, the glens, the torrents tempted him. Restless he seemed, long distances would walk, and lively was, and vehement in talk. A wandering life his life had lately been. Books he had read, the world had little seen. One former frailty haunted him, a touch of something introspective overmuch. With all his eager motions still there went a self-correcting and ascetic bent, that from the obvious good still led astray, and set him travelling on the longest way. Seen in these scattered notes their date that claim, when first his feeling conscious sought a name. Beside the wishing gate which so they name, mid northern hills to me this fancy came. A wish I formed, my wish I thus expressed. Would I could wish my wishes all to rest, and know to wish the wish that were the best. Oh, for some winnowing wind to the empty air, this chaff of easy sympathies to bear, far off, and leave me of myself aware. While thus this over-health deludes me still, so willing that I know not what I will. Oh, for some friend, or more than friend, austere, to make me know myself, and make me fear. Oh, for some touch, too noble to be kind, to awake to life the mind within the mind. Oh, charms, seductions, and divine delights, all through the radiant yellow summer nights. Dreams, hardly dreams, that yield or ere they're done, to thee bright fat, my day, my risen sun. O promise and fulfillment both in one. O bliss, already bliss, which naught has shared, whose glory no fruition has impaired. And, emblem of my state, thou coming day, with all thy hours unspent to pass away, why do I wait? What more propose to know? Where thee sweet mandate bids me, let me go. My conscience in my impulse let me find, justification in the moving mind, law in the strong desire, or yet behind. Say, is there aught the spell that has not heard, a something that refuses to be stirred? In other regions has my being heard of a strange language the diviner word? Has some forgotten life the exemplar shown? Elsewhere such high communion have I known as dooms me here in this to live alone. Then love, that shouldest blind me, let me, love, nothing behold beyond thee or above. Ye impulses that should be strong and wild, beguile me if I am to be beguiled. Where are there modes of love and different kinds, proportioned to the sizes of our minds? There are who say thus, I held there was one love, one deity, one central sun. As he resistless brings the expanding day, so love should come on his victorious way. If light at all, can light indeed be there, yet only permeate half the ambient air? Can the high noon be regnant in the sky, yet half the land in light and half in darkness lie? Can love, if love be occupant in part, hold, as it were, some chambers in the heart, tenant at will of so much of the soul, not lord and mighty master of the whole? There are who say, and say that it is well, opinion all, of knowledge none can tell. Montaigne, I know, in a realm high above, places the seat of friendship over love. 'Tis not in love that we should think to find the lofty fellowship of mind with mind. Love's not a joy where soul and soul unite, rather a wondrous animal delight. And as in spring, for one consummate hour, the world of vegetation turns to flower, the birds with liveliest plumage trim their wing, and all the woodland listens as they sing. When spring is o'er and summer days are sped, the songs are silent and the blossoms dead. Mean so of man and woman is the bliss. Oh, but I will not tamely yield to this. I think it only shows us in the end Montaigne was happy in a noble friend, had not the fortune of a noble wife. He lived, I think, a poor ignoble life, and wrote of petty pleasures, petty pain. I do not greatly think about Montaigne. How charming to be with her, yet indeed, after a while I find a blank succeed. After a while she little has to say. I'm silent too, although I wish to stay. What would it be all day, day after day? Ah, but I ask, I do not doubt, too much. I think of love as if it should be such, as to fulfill and occupy in whole, the not else seeking, not assaying soul. Therefore it is my mind what doubts I urge. Hence are these fears and shiverings on the verge. By books, not nature, thus have we been schooled. By poetry and novels been befooled. Wiser tradition says, the affection's claim will be supplied, the rest will be the same. I think too much of love, 'tis true, I know, it is not all, was ne'er intended so. Yet such a change, so entire, I feel 'twould be, so potent, so omnipotent with me. My former self I never should recall. Indeed, I think it must be all in all. I thought that love was winged, without a sound, his purple pinions bore him o'er the ground. Wafted without an effort here or there, he came, and we two trod as if in air. But panting, toiling, clambering up the hill, am I to assist him? I put forth my will, to upbear his lagging footsteps, lame and slow, and help him on and tell him where to go, and ease him of his quiver and his bow. Erotion, I saw it in a book. Why did I notice it? Why did I look? Yea, is it so, ye powers that see above? I do not love, I want, I try to love. This is not love, but lack of love instead. Merciless thought! I would I had been dead, or ere the phrase had come into my head. She also wrote, and here may find a place, of her and of her thoughts some slender trace. He is not vain, if proud, he quells his pride, and somehow really likes to be defied. Rejoices if you humble him, indeed, gives way at once, and leaves you to succeed. Easy it were with such a mind to play, and foolish not to do so, some would say. One almost smiles to look and see the way. But come what will, I will not play a part. Indeed, I dare not condescend to art. Easy 'twere not, perhaps, with him to live. He looks for more than any one can give. so dulled at times and disappointed still, expecting what depends not of my will. My inspiration comes not at my call. Seek me as I am, if seek you do at all. Like him I do, and think of him I must, but more I dare not and I cannot trust. This more he brings, say, is it more or less than that which fruitage never came to bless? The old wild flower of love and idleness. Me when he leaves, and others when he sees. What is my fate who am not there to please? Me he has left, already may have seen one who for me forgotten here has been. And he, the while, is bouncing between. If the heart spoke, the heart I knew were bound. What if it utter an uncertain sound? So quick to vary, so rejoiced to change. From this to that his feelings surely range. His fancies wander, and his thoughts as well. And if the heart be constant, who can tell? Far off to fly, to abandon me and go, he seems, returning then before I know. With every accident he seems to move, is now below me, and is now above. Now far aside, oh does he really love? Absence were hard, yet let the trial be. His nature's aim and purpose he would free, and in the world his course of action see. Oh should he lose, not learn, pervert his scope? Oh should I lose, and yet to win I hope? I win not now, his way if now I went. Brief joy I gave for years of discontent. Gone, is it true? But oft he went before, and came again before a month was o'er. Gone, though I could not venture upon art. It was perhaps a foolish pride in part. He had such ready fancies in his head, and really was so easy to be led. One might have failed, and yet I feel 'twas pride, and can't but half repent I never tried. Gone, is it true? But he again will come, wandering he loves, and loves returning home. Gone, it was true, nor came so soon again. Came, after travelling, pleasure half pain. Came, but a half of Europe first o'erran. Arrived, his father found a ruined man. Rich they had been, and rich was Emma too. Heiress of wealth she knew not, Edmund knew. Farewell to her, in a new home obscure, food for his helpless parents to secure. From early morning to advancing dark, he toiled and labored as a merchant's clerk. 3 years his heavy load he bore, nor quailed. Then all his health, though scarce his spirit failed. Friends interposed, insisted it must be, enforced their help, and sent him to the sea. Wandering about with little here to do, his old thoughts mingling dimly with his new. Wandering one morn, he met upon the shore her whom he quitted 5 long years before. Alas, why quitted? Say that charms are not, nor grace, nor beauty worth one serious thought. Was there no mystic virtue in the sense that joined your boyish girlish innocence? Is constancy a thing to throw away, and loving faithfulness a chance of every day? Alas, why quitted? Is she changed? But now the weight of intellect is in her brow. Changed, or but truer seen, one sees in her something to wake the soul, the interior sense to stir. Alone they met, from alien eyes away. The high shore hid them in a tiny bay. Alone was he, was she. In sweet surprise they met, before they knew it, in their eyes. In his a wondering admiration glowed, in hers a world of tenderness o'erflowed. In a brief moment all was known and seen, that of slow years the wearying work had been. Morn's early odorous breath, perchance in sooth, awoke the old natural feeling of their youth. The sea, perchance, in solitude had charms. They met, I know not, in each other's arms. Why linger now? Why waste the sands of life? A few sweet weeks, and they were man and wife. To his old frailty do not be severe. His latest theory with patience hear. I sought not, truly would, to seek the stain, a kind, soft pillow for a wearying pain, fatigues and cares to lighten, to relieve, but love is fellow service, I believe. No, truly no, it was not to obtain, though that alone were happiness, were gain. A tender breast to fall upon and weep, a heart, the secrets of my heart to keep, to share my hopes, and in my griefs to grieve. Yet love is fellow service, I believe. Yet in the eye of life's all-seeing sun, we shall behold a something we have done, shall of the work together we have wrought, beyond our aspiration and our thought, some not unworthy issue yet receive, for love is fellow service, I believe. The tale, we said, instructive was, but short. Could he not give another of the sort? He feared his second might his first repeat, and Aristotle teaches change is sweet. But come, our younger friend in this dim night, under his bushel must not hide his light. I said I'd had but little time to live, experience none or confidence could give, but I can tell tomorrow, if you please, my last year's journey towards the Pyrenees. Tomorrow came, an evening when it closed, the penalty of speech on me imposed. My tale, a la banquette, or a modern pilgrimage. I stayed at La Canille, 10 miles or more from the old Roman sources of Mondor. Travelers to Toul this way are forced to go, an old high road from Lyon to Bordeaux. From Toul to Brive the swift Corrèze descends. At Brive you've railway, and your trouble ends. A little bourg, La Canille, from the height, the mountains of Auvergne are all in sight. Green pastoral heights that once in lava flowed, of primal fire the product and abode. And all the plateaus and the lines that trace, where in deep dells the waters find their place. Far to the south above the lofty plain, the Plume du Cantal lifts his towering train. A little after one, with little fail, down drove the diligence that bears the mail. The courier therefore called, in whose banquette a place I got, and thankful was to get. The new postilion climbed his seat, allay. Off broke the 4 cart horses on their way. Westward we roll, o'er heathy backs of hills, crossing the future rivers in the rills. Bare table lands are these, and sparsely sown, turning their waters south to the Dordogne. Close packed we were, and little at our ease, the conductor impatient with the squeeze. Not tall he seemed, but bulky round about. His cap and jacket made him look more stout. In grand tenue he rode of conducteur. Black eyes he had, black his moustaches were, shaven his chin, his hair and whiskers cropped. A ready man, at Ussel when we stopped. For me and for himself, bread, meat, and wine he got. The courier did not wait to dine. To appease our hunger and allay our drouth, we ate and took the bottle at the mouth. 1 draught I had, the rest entire had he. For wine his body had capacity. A peasant in his country blouse was there. He told me of the Conseil and the mayor. Their mayor, he said, could neither write nor read, and yet could keep the registers indeed. The Conseil had resigned, I know not what. Good actions here are easily forgot. He in the 48 had something done. Were things but fair, some notice should have won. Another youth there was, a soldier he, a soldier seizing with today to be. 3 years had served, for 3 had bought release. From war returning to the arts of peace. To Toul he went, as his department's town. Tomorrow morn to pay his money down. In Italy, his 2nd year begun, this youth had served when Italy was won. He told of Montebello and the fight that ended fiercely with the close of night. There was he wounded, fell and thought to die. 2 Austrian cones had passed into his thigh. One traversed it, the other left behind. In hospital the doctor had to find. At 8 of night he fell and sadly lay, till 3 of morning of the following day, when peasants came and put him on a wain, and drove him to Voghera in his pain. To Alessandria thence the railway bore. In Alessandria then 2 months and more, he lay in hospital, to lop the limb. The Italian doctor who attended him was much disposed, but high above the knee. For life an utter cripple he would be. Then came the typhoid fever, and the lack of food, and sick and hungering on his back. With French, Italians, Austrians as he lay, arrived the tidings of Magenta's day. And Milan entered in the burning June, and Solferino's issue following soon. Alas, the glorious wars! And shortly he to Genoa for the advantage of the sea, and to Savona, suffering still, was sent, and joined his now returning regiment. Good were the Austrian soldiers, but the feel they did not well encounter of cold steel, nor in the bayonet fence of man with man, maintain their ground, but yielded, turned, and ran. Les armes blanches and the rifled gun had fought the battles and the victories won, the glorious wars, but he, the doubtful chance of soldiers' glory quitting in advance, his wounded limb less injured than he feared, was dealing now in timber, it appeared. Oak timber finding for some mines of lead, worked by an English company, he said. This youth perhaps was 23 years old. Simply and well his history he told. They wished to hear about myself as well. I told them, but it was not much to tell. That the Mont d'Or, of which the guidebook talks, I'd taken, not the waters, but the walks. Friends I had met, who on their southward way had gone before I followed them today. They wondered greatly at this wondrous thing. Les Anglais are forever on the wing. The conductor said everybody knew we were descended of the wandering Jew. And on with the declining sun we rolled, and woods and vales and fuller streams behold. About the hour when peasant people sup, we dropped the peasant, took a curé up, in hat and bands and soutane all to fit. He next the conductor was put to sit. I in the corner gained the senior place. Brown was his hair, but closely shaved his face. To lift his eyelids did he think it sin? I saw a pair of soft brown eyes within. Older he was, but looked like 22. Fresh from the cases, to the country new. I, the conductor, watching from my side, a roguish twinkle in his eye espied. He begged to hear about the pretty pair, whom he supposed he had been marrying there. The deed, he hoped, was comfortably done. Monsieur l'Evêque he called him in his fun. Then lifted soon his voice for all to hear. A baritone he had, both strong and clear. In fragments first of music made essay, and tried his pipes, and modest felt his way. Le ver en mai, la mort vous trouvera, it was, or ah, vous dirai-je, maman. And then, à toi, ma belle, à toi toujours, till of his organs quality secure. Trifling no more, but boldly, like a man, he filled his chest and gallantly began. Though I have seemed, against my wiser will, your victim, O ye tender foible still. Once now for all, though half my heart be yours. Adieu, sweet faults, adieu, ye gay amours. Sad if it be, yet true it is to say, I've 50 years, and 'tis too late a day. My limbs are shrinking, and my hair turns grey. Adieu, gay loves, it is too late a day. Once in your school, what good, alas, is once? I took my lessons, and was not the dunce. Oh, what a pretty girl was then Juliet! Don't you suppose that I remember yet, though 30 years divide me from the day when she and I first looked each other's way? But now, midwinter to be matched what may. Adieu, gay loves, it is too late a day. You lovely Marguerite, I shut my eyes, and do my very utmost to be wise, yet see you still, and hear, though closed my ears, and think I'm young in spite of all my years. Shall I forget you if I go away? To leave is painful, but absurd to stay. I've 50 dreadful reasons to obey. Adieu, gay loves, it is too late a day. This priest beside the lusty conductor under his beaver sat and looked demure. Faintly he smiled the company to please, and folded held his hands above his knees. Then, apropos of nothing had we heard, he asked about a thing that had occurred at the Mont d'Or a little time ago, a wondrous cure. And when we answered no, about a little girl he told a tale, who, when her medicines were of no avail, was by the doctor ordered to Mont d'Or, but nothing gained and only suffered more. This little child had in her simple way unto the Blessed Virgin learnt to pray, and as it happened, to an image there, by the roadside one day she made her prayer, and of Our Lady who can hear on high, begged for her parents' sake she might not die. Our Lady of Grace, whose attribute is love, beheld this child and listened from above. Her parents noticed from that very day the malady began to pass away, and but a fortnight after, as they tell, they took her home rejoicing, sound and well. Things come, he said, to show us every hour we are surrounded by superior power. Little we notice, but if once we see, the seed of faith will grow into a tree. The conductor, he wisely shook his head. Strange things do happen in our time, he said. If the bon Dieu but please, no doubt indeed. When things are desperate, yet they will succeed. Ask the postilion here, and he can tell who cured his horse, and what of it befell. Then the postilion, in his smock of blue, his pipe into his mouth's far corner drew, and told about a farrier and a horse. But his Auvergnat grew from bad to worse. His rank Auvergnan patois was so strong, with what he said I could not go along. And what befell, and how it came to pass, and if it were a horse or if an ass, the sequence of his phrase I could not keep, and in the middle fairly sank to sleep. When I awoke, I heard a stream below, and on each bank saw houses in a row. Carray's the stream, the houses Toul, they said, alighted here and thankful went to bed. But how, said one, about the Pyrenees? And Hamlet, give us Hamlet, if you please. Your friend declares you said you met with there a peasant beauty, beauteous past compare, who fed her cows the mountain peaks between, and asked if at Velletri you had been, and was Velletri larger than was Rome? Her soldier brother went away from home 2 years ago. To Rome it was he went, and to Velletri was this summer sent. He 23, and she was sweet 17, and fed her cows the mountain peaks between. Lightly along a rocky path she led, and from a grange she brought you milk and bread. In summer here she lived, and with the snow went in October to the field below. And where you lived, she asked, and oh, they say, that with the English we shall fight some day. Loveliest of peasant girls that e'er was seen, feeding her cows the mountain peaks between. 'Tis true, I said, though to betray was mean. My Pyrenean verses will you hear, though not about that peasant girl, I fear. Begin, they said, the sweet bucolic song, though it to other maids and other cows belong. Currente calamo. Quick, painter, quick, the moment seize, amid the snowy Pyrenees. More evanescent than the snow, the pictures come, are seen, and go. Quick, quick, currente calamo. I do not ask the tints that fill the gate of day twixt hill and hill. I ask not for the hues that fleet above the distant peaks. My feet are on a poplar-bordered road, where with a saddle and a load, a donkey old and ashen gray, reluctant works his dusty way. Before him, still with might and main, pulling his rope the rustic rein, a girl, before both him and me. Frequent she turns and lets me see, unconscious lets me scan and trace the sunny darkness of her face, and outlines full of southern grace. Following I notice, yet and yet, her olive skin, dark eyes deep set, and blacker e'en than jet, the escaping hair that scantly showed, since o'er it in the country mode, for winter warmth and summer shade, the lap of scarlet cloth is laid. And then, back falling from the head, a crimson kerchief overspread, her jacket blue, thence passing down, a skirt of darkest yellow-brown, coarse stuff, allowing to the view the smooth limb to the woolen shoe. But who? Here's someone following too, a priest, and reading at his book. Read on, O priest, and do not look. Consider she is but a child, yet might your fancy be beguiled. Read on, O priest, and pass and go, but see, succeeding in a row, 2, 3, and 4, a motley train, musicians wandering back to Spain, with fiddle and with tambourine, a man with woman following seen. What dresses, ribbon ends, and flowers, and, sight to wonder at for hours, the man to Philip has he sat, with butterfly-like velvet hat. One dame his big bassoon conveys, on one his gentle arm he lays. They stop and look and something say, and to Espana ask the way. But while I speak and point them on, alas, my dearer friends are gone. The dark-eyed maiden and the ass have had the time the bridge to pass. Vainly beyond it far descried. Adieu, and peace with you abide. Grey donkey and your beauteous guide. The pictures come, the pictures go. Quick, quick, currente calamo. They praise the rhymes, but still would persevere, the eclogue of the mountain peaks to hear. Eclogue that never was, and then a while, of France and Frenchmen and our native isle, they taught, pre-insular above the rest. My friend his ardent politics expressed. France was behind us all, he saw in France worse retrogression and the least advance. Her revolutions had but thrown her back, powerful just now, but wholly off the track. They in religion were, as I had seen, about where we in Chaucer's time had been. In Chaucer's time, and yet their Wycliffe where? Something they'd kept, the worst part of Voltaire. Strong for old England was New England too. The clergyman was neutral in his view. And I for France with more than I could do. Though sound, my thesis did not long maintain the contemplation of the nightly main, the vaulted heavens above, and under these, the black ship working through the dusky seas. Deserting to our narrow berths we crept, sound slumbered there, the watch while others kept. One after night we took ourselves to task for our neglect, who had forborne to ask the clergyman, who always talked so well, the tale to which he had confessed to tell. He put us off, but yet ere night was done, told us another and a sadder one. The clergyman's tale. Edward and Jane a married couple were, and fonder she of him or he of her was hard to say. Their wedlock had begun when in 1 year they both were 21, and friends who would not sanction left them free. He gentle born, nor his inferior she, and neither rich. To the newly wedded boy a great insurance office found employ. Strong in their loves and hopes, what joy they took this narrow lot in the world's altered look. Beyond their home they nothing sought or craved, and even from the narrow income saved. Their busy days for note and way had place. Neither grew weary of the other's face. 9 happy years had crowned their married state, with children, one a little girl of 8. With 9 industrious years his income grew, with his employers rose his favor too. 9 years complete had passed when something ailed. Friends and the doctors said his health had failed. He must recruit, or worse would come to pass. And though to rest was hard for him, alas, 3 months of leave he found he could obtain. And go, they said, get well and work again. Just at this juncture of their married life, her mother, sickening, begged to have his wife. Her house among the hills in Surrey stood, and to be there, said Jane, would do the children good. They let their house, and with the children she went to her mother, he beyond the sea. Far to the south his orders were to go, a watering place whose name we need not know, for climate and for change of scene was best. There he was bid, laborious task to rest, a dismal thing in foreign lands to roam, to one accustomed to an English home. Dismal yet more, in health if feeble grown, to live a boarder, helpless and alone. In foreign town, and worse yet worse is made, if 'tis a town of pleasure and parade, dispiriting the public walls and seats, the alien faces that the alien meets. Drearily every day this old routine repeats. Yet here this alien prospered, change of air, or change of scene did more than tenderest care. 3 weeks were scarce completed. To his home, he wrote to say, he thought he now could come. His usual work was sure he could resume. And something said about the place's gloom, and how he loathed idling his time away. Oh, but they wrote, his wife and all, to say, he must not think of it, 'twas quite too quick. Let was their house, her mother still was sick. 3 months were given, and 3 he ought to take, for his and hers and for his children's sake. He wrote again, 'twas weariness to wait, this doing nothing was a thing to hate. He'd cast his 9 laborious years away, and was as fresh as on his wedding day. At last he yielded, feared he must obey, and now, his health repaired, his spirits grown, less feeble, less he cared to live alone. 'Twas easier now to face the crowded shore, and table d'hote less tedious than before. His ancient silence sometimes he would break, and the mute Englishman was heard to speak. His youthful colour soon, his youthful air, came back amongst the crowd of idlers there, with whom good looks entitled to good name. For his good looks he gained a sort of fame. People would watch him as he went and came. Explain the tragic mystery who can. Something there is, we know not what, in man, with all established happiness at strife, and bent on revolution in his life. Explain the plan of Providence who dare, and tell us wherefore in this world there are beings who seem for this alone to live, temptation to another soul to give. A beauteous woman at the table d'hote, to try this English heart, at least to note this English countenance, conceived the whim. She sat exactly opposite to him, Ere long he noticed with a vague surprise how every day on him she bent her eyes. Soft and inquiring now they looked, and then, wholly withdrawn, unnoticed came again, his shrunk aside. And yet there came a day. Alas, they did not wholly turn away. So beautiful her beauty was, so strange, and to his northern feelings such a change. Her throat and neck Junonian in their grace, the blood just mantled in her southern face. Dark hair, dark eyes, and all the arts she had, with which some dreadful power adorns the bad. Bad women in their youth, and young was she.
20 perhaps, at the utmost 23.
And timid seemed, and innocent of ill. Her feelings went and came without her will. You will not wish minutely to know all his efforts in the prospect of the fall. He oscillated to and fro, he took high courage oft, temptation from him shook, compelled himself to virtuous thoughts and just, and as it were in ashes and in dust abhorred his thought, but living thus alone, of solitary tedium weary grown, from sweet society so long debarred, and fearing in his judgment to be hard on her, that he was sometimes off his guard. What wonder? She relentless still pursued, unmarked, and tricked him in his solitude. And not in vain, alas! The days went by, and found him in the snare. But soon a letter full of tenderest care came from his wife, the little daughter too, in a large hand. The exercise was new. To her papa her love and kisses sent, into his very heart and soul it went. Forth on the high and dusty road he sought some issue for the vortex of his thought. Returned, packed up his things, and ere the day descended was 100 miles away. There are, I know of course, who lightly treat such slips. We stumble, we regain our feet. What can we do, they say, but hasten on and disregard it as the thing that's gone. Many there are who in a case like this would calm re-seek their sweet domestic bliss, accept unshamed the wifely tender kiss, and lift their little children on their knees, and take their kisses too, with hearts at ease. Will read the household prayers, to church will go, and sacrament, nor care if people know. Such men, so minded, do exist, God knows, and God be thanked, this was not one of those. Late in the night, at a provincial town in France, a passing traveller was put down. Haggard he looked, his hair was turning grey, his hair, his clothes were much in disarray. In a bedchamber here one day he stayed, wrote letters, posted them, his reckoning paid, and went. 'Twas Edward rushing from his fall. Here to his wife he wrote and told her all. Forgiveness, yes, perhaps she might forgive. For her, and for the children, he must live, at any rate. But their old home to share, as yet was something that he could not bear. She with her mother still her home should make, a lodging near the office he should take. And once a quarter he would bring his pay, and he would see her on the quarter day. But her alone, e'en this would dreadful be. The children 'twas not possible to see. Back to the office at this early day, to see him come, old looking thus in grey. His comrades wondered too to see how dire a passion for his work had he. How in a garret too he lived alone, so cold a husband, cold a father grown. In a green lane beside her mother's home, where in old days they had been used to roam. His wife had met him on the appointed day, fell on his neck, said all that love could say, and wept. He put the loving arms away. At dusk they met, for so was his desire. She felt his cheeks and forehead all on fire. The kisses which she gave he could not brook. Once in her face he gave a sidelong look, said but for them he wished that he were dead, and put the money in her hand and fled. Sometimes in easy and familiar tone, of sins resembling more or less his own, he heard his comrades in the office speak, and felt the colour tingling in his cheek. Lightly they spoke as of a thing of naught, he of their judgment ne'er so much as thought. I know not, in his solitary pains, whether he seemed to feel, as in his veins, the moral mischief circulating still, racked with the torture of the double will. And like some frontier land where armies wage the mighty wars, engage and yet engage, all through the summer in the fierce campaign, march, countermarch, gain, lose, and yet regain. With battle reeks the desolated plain. So felt his nature yielded to the strife of the contending good and ill of life.
But a whole year this penance he endured, nor even then would think that he was cured. Once in the quarter, in the country lane, he met his wife and paid his quarter's gain, to bring the children she besought in vain. He has a life small happiness that gives, who friendless in a London lodging lives, dines in a dingy chop-house and returns to a lone room, while all within him yearns for sympathy, and his whole nature burns with a fierce thirst for someone, is there none, to expend his human tenderness upon? So blank and hard and stony is the way to walk, I wonder not men go astray. Edward, whom still a sense that never slept, on the strict path undeviating kept, one winter evening found himself pursued amidst the dusky thronging multitude. Quickly he walked, but strangely swift was she, and pertinacious, and would make him see. He saw at last, and recognizing slow, discovered in this hapless thing of woe the occasion of his shame 12 wretched months ago. She gaily laughed, she cried, and sought his hand, and spoke sweet phrases of her native land. Exiled, she said, her lovely home had left, not to forsake a friend of all but her bereft. Exiled, she cried, for liberty, for love, she was, still limpid eyes she turned above. So beauteous once, and now such misery in, pity had all but softened him to sin. But while she talked, and wildly laughed, and cried, and plucked the hand which sadly he denied, a stranger came and swept her from his side. He watched them in the gaslit darkness go, and a voice said within him, even so. So midst the gloomy mansions where they dwell, the lost souls walk the flaming streets of hell. The lamps appeared to fling a baleful glare, a brazen heat was heavy in the air, and it was hell, and he some unblessed wanderer there. For a long hour he stayed the streets to roam. Late gathering sense, he gained his garret home. There found the telegraph that bade him come straight to the country, where his daughter still, his darling child, lay dangerously ill. The doctor would he bring? Away he went, and found the doctor. To the office sent a letter asking leave, and went again, and with a wild confusion in his brain, joining the doctor caught the latest train. The train swift whirled them from the city light into the shadows of the natural night. 'Twas silent starry midnight on the down, silent and chill, when they straight come from town. Leaving the station, walked a mile to gain the lonely house amid the hills where Jane, her mother, and her children should be found. Waked by their entrance, but of sleep unsound, the child not yet her altered father knew, yet talked of her papa in her delirium too. Danger there was, yet hope there was, and he, to attend the crisis, and the changes see, and take the steps, at hand should surely be. Said Jane the following day, Edward, you know, over and over I have told you so, as in a better world I seek to live, as I desire forgiveness I forgive. Forgiveness does not feel the word to say, as I believe in one who takes away our sin, and gives us righteousness instead. You to this sin, I do believe, are dead. 'Twas I, you know, who let you leave your home, and bade you stay when you so wished to come. My fault was that, I've told you so before, and vainly told, but now 'tis something more. Say, is it right, without a single friend, without advice, to leave me to attend children and mother both? Indeed, I've thought, through one of you the child her fever caught. Chances of mischief come with every hour. It is not in a single woman's power, alone, and ever haunted more or less, with anxious thoughts of you and your distress. 'Tis not indeed, I'm sure of it, in me, all things with perfect judgment to foresee. This weight has grown too heavy to endure, and you, I tell you now, and I am sure, neglect your duty both to God and man, persisting thus in your unnatural plan. This feeling you must conquer, for you can. And after all, you know we are but dust. What are we in ourselves that we should trust? He scarcely answered her, but he obtained a longer leave, and quietly remained. Slowly the child recovered, long was ill, long delicate, and he must watch her still. To give up seeing her he could not bear, to leave her less attended did not dare. The child recovered slowly, slowly too, recovered he, and more familiar drew home's happy breath, and apprehension o'er. Their former life he yielded to restore. and to his mournful garret went no more. Midnight was dim and hazy overhead, when the tale ended and we turned to bed. Midnight was in the cabin still and dead. Our fellow passengers were all in bed. We followed them, and nothing further spoke. Out of the sweetest of my sleep I woke at 2, and felt we stopped amid a dream of England, knew the letting off of steam, and rose. 'Twas fog, and were we off Cape Race, the captain would be certain of his place. Wild and white vapor flew away the force, and self-arrested was the eager course that had not seized before. But shortly now, Cape Race was made to starboard on the bow. The paddles plied, I slept, the following night. In the mid-seas we saw a quay and light, and peered through mist into an unseen town. And on scarce seeming land set one companion down, and went, with morning and a shining sun, under the high New Brunswick coast we run, invisible discerned to every eye, rocks, pines, and little ports, and passing by, the boats and coasting craft. When sunk the night, early now sunk, the northern streamers bright, floated and flashed the cliffs and clouds behind, with phosphorus the billows all were lined. To bed with busy thoughts, the following day bore us expectant into Boston Bay, with dome and steeple on the yellow skies. Upon the left we watched with curious eyes the Puritan great mother city rise. Among the islets, winding in and round, the great ship moved to her appointed ground. We bade adieu, shook hands, and went ashore. I and my friend have seen our friends no more. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Matrimony by Andrew Lang. Read for LibriVox.org by Mark Harrington. Matrimony. Matrimony. Advertiser would like to hear from well-educated Protestant lady, under 30, fair, with view to above, who would have no objection to work Remington typewriter at home. Enclosed photo. T99. This office. Cork newspaper. T99 would gladly hear from one whose years are few, a maid whose doctrines are severe, a Presbyterian blue. Also, with view to the above, her photo he would see, and trusts that she may live and love his Protestant to be. But ere the sacred rites are done, and by no priest of Rome, he'd ask if she a Remington typewriter works at home. If she have no objections to this task, and if her hair, in keeping with her eyes of blue, be delicately fair, then let her a photo send of all her charms divine to him who rests her faithful friend, her own T99. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
My Heart Has Known Its Winter by Arna Bonhomme. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston, Tharp. A little while spring will claim its own. In all the land around for mile on mile, tender grass will hide the rugged stone. My still heart will sing a little while. And men will never think this wilderness was barren once, when grass is over all. Hearing laughter, they may never guess my heart has known its winter and carried gall. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
My Life Closed Twice Before Its Close by Emily Dickinson. Read for LibriVox.org by Colleen Booker. My life closed twice before its close. It yet remains to see if immortality unveil a third event to me, so huge, so hopeless to conceive as these that twice befell. Parting is all we know of heaven, and all we need of hell. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Nero by Harry Graham. Read for LibriVox.org by Tony Scheinman. The portrait that I seek to paint is of no ordinary hero, no customary plaster saint, for nothing of the sort was Nero. He was an emperor, but then he had his faults like other men. And first, a foolish thing to do, he turned his hand to matricide, and straight his aged mother slew. The poor old lady promptly died. 'Tis surely wrong to kill one's mother, since one can hardly get another. He was a hearty feeder, too, and onto his digestion thrust all kinds of fatty foods, and grew robust, with accent on the bust. Sweets are, I quote from memory, the uses of obesity. He married twice. 2 ladies fair agreed in turn to be his wife, to board his slender bark and share his fate upon the stream of life. Forgive me if I mention this as being true connubial bliss. His talent on the violin he was forever proud of showing. The tone that he produced was thin, nor could one loudly praise his bowing. But persons whom he played before were almost sure to ask for more. For he decreed that any who did not encore him or applaud should be beheaded, cut in two, hanged, flayed alive, and sent abroad. So it was natural that they who came to cough remained to pray. He felt no sympathy for those who had not lots to drink and eat, who wore unfashionable clothes and strove to make the 2 ends meet. They drew no tears, the short and simple flannels of the poor, from him. To Christians he was far from kind. They met with his disapprobation. The choicest tortures he designed for folks of their denomination. And all historians insist that he was no philanthropist. To lamp-posts he would oft attach a Jew immersed in paraffin, apply a patent safety match, and smile as he surveyed the scene. 'Twas possible in Rome at night to read a book by Israelite. And when occurred the famous fire, of which some say he was the starter, he roused the corporation's ire by playing Braga's Serenata. 'Tis said that, when he changed to Handel, the play was hardly worth the scandal. He crowned his long career at last by one supreme and final action, which, after such a lurid past, gave universal satisfaction, and not one poor relation cried when he committed suicide. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
New Year's Day by Richard Crashaw. Read for LibriVox.org by Public Domain Scholar. New Year's Day. Rise, thou best and brightest morning, rosy with a double red, with thine own blush thy cheeks adorning, and the dear drops this day were shed. All the purple pride that laces the crimson curtains of thy bed gilds thee not with so sweet graces, nor sets thee in so rich a red. Of all the fair-cheeked flowers that fill thee, none so fair thy bosom strows, as this modest maiden lily our sins have shammed into a rose. Bid thy golden god, the sun, burnished in his best beams rise. Put all his red-eyed rubies on, these rubies shall put out their eyes. Let him make poor the purple east, search what the world's close cabinets keep, rob the rich births of each bright nest, that flaming in their fair beds sleep. Let him embrave his own bright tresses with a new morning made of gems, and wear, in those wealthy dresses, another day of diadems. When he hath done all he may to make himself rich in his rise, all will be darkness to the day that breaks from one of these bright eyes. And soon this sweet truth shall appear. Dear babe, ere many days be done, the morn shall come to meet thee here, and leave her own neglected son. Here our beauties shall bereave him of all his eastern paramours, his Persian lovers, all shall leave him, and swear faith to thy sweeter powers. Nor while they leave him shall they lose the sun, but in thy fairest eyes find two for one. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Nothin Done by Sam S. Stinson from The Wit and Humor of America. Read for LibriVox.org by Dale Grothmann. Nothin Done. Winter is too cold for work. Freezin' weather makes me shirk. Spring comes on and finds me wishin' I could end my days a fishin'. Then, in summer when it's hot, I say work and go to pot. Autumn days, so calm and hazy, sorta make me kinda lazy. That's the way the seasons run. Seems I can't get nothin' done. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Not the round natural world, not the deep mind, by Frederick Goddard Tuckerman. Recorded for LibriVox by Bartholomew Begley, Dublin, January 2025. Not the round natural world, not the deep mind the reconcilement holds. The blue abyss collects it not. Our arrows sink and miss, and but in him may we our import find. The agony to know, the grief, the bliss of toil is vain and vain. Clots of the sod, gathered in heat and haste, and flung behind to blind ourselves and others. What but this, still grasping dust and sowing toward the wind? No more thy meaning seek, thine anguish plead, but leaving straining thought and stammering word, across the barren azure pass to God, shooting the void in silence like a bird that shuts its wings for better speed. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Ode to Mr. Brunel by Thomas Hood. Read for LibriVox.org by mleigh. Well said, old mole, canst work i' the dark so fast, a worthy pioneer. Hamlet. Well, Monsieur Brunel, how prospers now thy mighty undertaking, to join by a hollow way the bankside friends of Rotherhithe and Wapping, never be stopping, but poking, groping in the dark keep making an archway underneath the dabs and gudgeons, for collier men and pitchy old curmudgeons to cross the water in inverse proportion, walk under steamboats under the keel's ridge, to keep down all extortion, and without skulls to diddle London Bridge. In a fresh hunt, a new great bore to worry, thou didst to earth thy human terriers follow, hopeful at last from Middlesex to Surrey, to give us the view hollow. In short, it was thy aim, right north and south, to put a pipe into old Thames's mouth. Alas, halfway thou hadst proceeded, when old Thames, through roof not waterproof, came like a tide in the affairs of men, and with a mighty stormy kind of roar, reproachful of thy wrong, burst out in that old song of Incledon's, beginning, Cease, rude boar. Sad it is, worthy of one's tears, just when one seems the most successful, to find oneself o'er head and ears in difficulties most distressful. Other great speculations have been nursed, till want of proceeds laid them on a shelf. But thy concern was at the worst, when it began to liquidate itself. But now Dame Fortune has her false face hidden, and languishes thy tunnel, so to paint, under a slow incurable complaint, bedridden. Why, when thus Thames, bed-bothered, why repine? Do try a spare bed at the Serpentine. Yet let none think thee dazed, or crazed, or stupid, and sunk beneath thy own and Thames's craft. Let them not style thee some mechanic Cupid, pining and pouting o'er a broken shaft. I'll tell thee with thy tunnel what to do. Light up thy boxes, build a bin or two. The wine does better than such water trades. Stick up a sign, the sign of the Boar's Head. I've drawn it ready for thee in black lead, and make thy cellar subterrane, thy shades. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Of All the Sounds Dispatched Abroad by Emily Dickinson. Read for LibriVox.org by Colleen Booker. Of all the sounds dispatched abroad, there's not a charge to me. Like that old measure in the boughs, that phraseless melody. The wind does, working like a hand, whose fingers comb the sky, then quiver down with tufts of tune, permitted gods and me. Inheritance it is to us beyond the art to earn, beyond the trait to take away by robber, since the gain is got not of fingers and inner than the bone, hid golden for the day whole of days, and even in the urn. I cannot vouch the merry dust do not arise and play, and some odd fashion of its own, some quainter holiday. When winds go round in bands and thrum upon the door, and birds take places overhead to bear them orchestra. I crave him grace of summer boughs, if such an outcast be, who never heard that fleshless chant rise solemn on the tree, as if some caravan of sound off deserts in the sky had parted rank, then knit and swept in seamless company. End of poem. This reading is in the public domain.
On the Depreciated Money by Thomas Hood. Read for LibriVox.org by mleigh. They may talk of the plugging and sweating of our coinage that's minted of gold, but to me it produces no fretting of its shortness of weight to be told. All the sovereigns I'm able to levy as to lightness can never be wrong, but must surely be some of the heavy, for I never can carry them long. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Orpheus by Emma Lazarus. Read for LibriVox.org by Arden. January 23, 2024. Orpheus. To my sister Josephine. 1869. Orpheus. Daughter and dance, and sounds of harp and lyre, piping of flutes, singing of festal songs, ribbons of flame from flaunting torches, dulled by the broad summer sunshine, these had filled, since the high noon, the pillared vestibules, the peristyles and porches in the house of the bride's father. Maidens garlanded with rose and myrtle dedicate to love, adorned with chaplets fresh the bride, and veiled the shining head and wistful, girlish face. Ineffable sweetness of divided lips, large light of clear grey eyes, low lucid brows,
white as a cloud, beneath pale clustering gold, when sunless skies uncertain twilight cast, that makes a friend's face as an alien strange, investing with a foreign mystery the dear green fields about our very home. Then waiting stood the gilded chariot before the porch, and from the vine-wreathed door issued the white-veiled bride, while jocund youths and maenads followed her with dance and song. She came with double glory, for her lord, son of Apollo and Calliope, towered beside her, beautiful in limb and feature as though formed to magic strains, like the Boeotian city that arose in airy structures to Amphion's lute. The light serene shone from his brow and eyes, of one whose lofty thoughts keep consonance with the celestial music of the spheres. His smile was fluent, and his speech outsang the cadences of soft-stringed instruments. He to the chariot led Eurydice, and these twain, mounting with their paranymph, drove onward through the dusky twilight fields, preceded by the nymphs and singing youths, and boys diffusing light and odors warm, with flaming brands of aromatic woods, and matrons bearing symbols of the life of careful wives, the distaff and the sieve, and followed by the echoes of their songs, the fragrance crushed from moist and trodden grass, the blessing of the ever-present gods, whom they invoked with earnest hymns and prayer. From Orpheus's portico, festooned with vines, issued a flood of rare ambrosial light, as though Olympian portals stood ajar, and Hymen, radiant by his torch's flame, mystic with saffron vest and purple, stood, with hands munificent to greet and bless. Ripe fruits were poured upon the married pair, alighting, and the chariot wheels were burnt, a token that the bride returned no more unto her father's house. With step resolved, she crossed the threshold soft with flowers, secure that his heroic soul who guided her was potent and alert to grace her life, with noble outlines and ideal hues, uplifting it to equal height with his. Epithalamium, to Zeus, because thou art enthroned beyond our reach, behind the brightest and the furthest star, and silence is as eloquent as speech, to thee who knowest us for what we are. We bring thee not save brief and simple prayer, strong in its naked frank sincerity. Send sacred joys of marriage to this pair, with fertile increase and prosperity. 3 nymphs had met beneath an oak that cast cool, dappled shadow on the glowing grass, and liquid gleam of the translucent brook. The air was musical with frolic sounds of feminine voices and of laughter blithe. Patinas of sunshine fell like mottled gold on the rose white of bright bare limbs and neck, on flowing snowy mantles, and again, with sudden splendor on the gloriole of warm rich hair. The fairest nymph reclined beneath the tree, and leaned her yellow head, with its crisp clustering rings, against the trunk, and dipped her pure feet in the colorless brook, stirring the ripples into circles wide, with cool delicious plashings in the stream. Her young companions lay upon the grass, with indolent eyes half closed, and parted lips, half smiling in the languor of the noon. But suddenly these twain, arising, cried, startled and sharply, "Lo, Eurydice! Behold!" And she, uplifting frightened eyes, saw a strange shepherd watching with bold glance. Veiling their faces with their mantles light, her sisters fled swift-footed, with shrill cries, adown the meadow, but her wet feet clung to the dry grasses and the earthy soil. "Eurydice, I love thee, fear me not, for I am Aristeus, with grey groves of hoary olives, and innumerous flocks, and precious swarms of yellow-vested bees." But she, with sudden strength eluding him, sprang o'er the flowery turf, with back-blown hair, and wing-like garments, shortened breath, and face kindled with shame and terror. In her flight she ran through fatal flowers and tangled weeds, and thick rank grass beside a stagnant pool, when, with a keen and breathless cry of pain, abrupt she fell amidst the tall green reeds. Then Aristeus reached her, as a snake crept back in sinuous lines amidst the slime. Desire was changed to pity when he saw the wounded dryad in her agony strive vainly to escape, repelling him with feeble arms. "Forgive me, nymph," he cried. "I will not touch, save with most reverent hands, thy sacred form, but let me bear thee hence, and soothe thy bruise with healing herbs. Too late! Leave me, she sighed, and lead thou Orpheus here, that I may see him ere the daylight fails. He left her pale with suffering, earth seemed strange unto her eyes, who knew she looked her last on level stretching meadows, hazy hills, and all the light and color of the sky. Brief as a dream she saw her happy life, her father's face, her mother's blessed eyes. The hero who, unheralded, appeared, and all was changed. All things put forth a voice, as in the season of the singing birds. She looked around, revived, and saw again the lapsing river and abiding sky. Across the sunny fields came Aristeus, with Orpheus following, and after these, sad nymphs and heroes grave with sympathy. Quite calm she lay, and almost wished to die before they reached her, if the throbbing pain of limb and heart could only thus be stilled. But Orpheus hastened to her side, and mourned, Eurydice, Eurydice, remain, for there is no delight of speech nor song among the dead. Will thee gods just with me, and call this life, which must forevermore be but a void, a hunger, a desire, a stretching out of empty hands to grasp what earth nor sea nor heaven will restore? Is this the life that I conceived and sang, rich with all noble opportunities and beautiful realities? But she, brave Orpheus, search thou not the eternal gods. Surely they love us dearer than we know. Do thou refrain, for yet I hold my faith. When I am gone, thou still wilt have thy lyre. Love it and cherish, it is fate's best gift. And with death's clearer vision I can see that in all ages men will be appraised, nearer to gods through this than through aught else. My death may but inspire a larger note, a passionate cadence to thy strain, which else were not quite human and thus incomplete. And with this thought I am content to die. Cease not to sing to me when I am gone. My voice will reach me in the farthest spheres, or wake me out of silence. Now begin, that I may float on those celestial waves into the darkness, as I oft have longed. Orpheus. Once in a wild, bright vision came to me, beautiful music luminous as morn, an effluence of light and rapture born, with eyes as full of splendor as the sea, dazzling as youth, with pinions frail as air, yet potent to uplift and soar as prayer. Again I see her, cypress in her wreath, sad with all grave and tender mysteries, tears in her unimaginable eyes, that look there first with wondering awe on death. Never again in all the after years will her lips laugh with utter mirthfulness, nor these strange longing in her eyes grow less, nor any time dispel their mist of tears. Yea, with new numbers she completes her strain, a song unsung before by gods or men. But she hath lost, lost forevermore, the ringing note of joy ineffable, the high assurance proud that all is well, the glad refrain that pealed from shore to shore. O lyre, thou hast done with joyous things, triumphant ecstasy's exultant song, of subtle pain, keen anguish, hopeless wrong. I fashion now another of thy strings, and strike thee with a strong hand passionate, into a fuller music adequate, unto a soul that seeks insatiably, with fond elusive hope and faith divine. For through all ages will my soul seek thine, Eurydice, my lost Eurydice. What solace to lament with empty hands and smitten heart above a mound of earth, vivid with mockery of perpetual flowers, or one small urn that holds beneath its lid, with overmeasure all the flameless dust and soulless ashes of our love. Yet this was Orpheus's life, to mourn beside the grave, from his stringed lyre compelling wild response, and thrilling intonation of his grief, that made the hearts of gnarled and knotty oaks ache as with human sympathy, and writhed the adamantine center of the rock, and lured the forest beasts, and hushed the birds, mavis and lark, while with wide, awful wings the eagle shadowed his exalted brow. Surely, he cried, the senseless dust hears not, more than the burnt brand hears old natural sounds, innumerable rustle of young leaves. It cannot be that only these remain, the ashes of her glittering limbs, warm flesh, and blessed hair. My love had more than these. Where is the vital soul that was to me an inspiration and an influence? The gods are not unstable like rash man, aimlessly to create and discreate, with cruel and capricious fantasy, for thus the immaculate skies would be a lie. Eurydice is but withdrawn from me, and disembodied, while mine eyesight blinds. My senses are a hindrance, and obstruct the accurate perception of my soul, when mine own spirit, nightly disenthralled, soars to the land of dreams, whose boundaries by day loom infinitely far and vague, and yet at night become our very home. There still I see thee with the same bright form, the same auroral eyes that made for me perpetual morning, and I stretch mine arms, hungering after thee, and calling wake unto the vapid glare of languid dawn. Yet all these things address my very soul, telling it that thou art not dead, for death is but the incarnation of man's fears. Gods do not recognize it. If thou art, as I have faith, in thee known universe, yea, though it be in the extremest land, beyond the sunset with its shining isles, I will go forth and seek thee, nor will cease to mourn thee and desire till I have found. Thus Orpheus fared across the full-fed streams of Hebrus and of Strymon, and beyond the purple outlines and aerial crags, snow glittering of Scardus, Rhodope, and grand Orbelus, through fair fertile fields of Thessaly with increase of ripe corn, through Attica, Boeotia, and Euboea, and southward to the royal-citied state, beautiful Corinth, throned upon the base of green Acrocorinthus, whose soft slope was dedicated with temples to the gods, and towering over all the sacred shrine of Aphrodite, upward from the town, the mountain rose defensive, where the walls of Corinth ended, and beyond the gates, the radiant plain of the Corinthian Gulf stretched infinitely. Orpheus rested here, till he bethought him to ascend a mount, with offerings at Aphrodite's shrine, not sanguine victims, but fresh myrtle wreath and faultless rose, to sue the oracle for help and guidance. All the town was still. The bright red band of sunrise lit the sky above the dark blue gulf, and Orpheus heard 100 birds saluting from the brake. Aurora and cool rush of waterfalls made murmurous music while Athena breathed the vigor of the morning in his soul. Up the steep mountainside he passed, beyond the silver growth of olives and the belts of pines, to where the foam-white temple stood. Smitten at once by all the beams of morn, he saw the double peak, rose-white with snow and early sunshine, of Parnassus cleave the northern sky, and sacred Helicon erect its head, crowned with the Muses' grove. The bay of Crissa and Corinthian Gulf below flashed restless, in a path of gold, divided with clear, tremulous light the waves. From the large beauty of the morn he went into the holy limits of the shrine, with warm air heavy with the odorous rose. Orpheus, I put into my prayer to thee, O mother, the tumult and the passion of the ocean, the unflecked purity of winnowed foam wreaths. To thee who sprang from these, the incarnation of all the huge sea holds of grace or splendor, with its own light between thine amorous eyelids. For I, in thy most sacred cause a pilgrim, have wandered tireless from Thrace to Corinth, midst foreign scenes and alien men and women. And at my right hand grief incessant follows, and at my left walks memory with the semblance of lost Eurydice's ethereal beauty. Infatuate I gaze, until the vision thrills me to madness, and I start and tremble, remembering also grief as my companion. Onward through spacious fields, by copious waters, through purple growth of amaranth and crocus, and past the marble beauty of great cities, we three have journeyed. Strangers saw me reckless, and knew at once that I had walked with sorrow, and that the gods had chosen me their victim. Are all my carols useless, worse than useless? Shall my long pilgrimage, thus unrewarded, end at the blank, insuperable ocean? Hast thou no wise companion, goddess mother? In all the measureless years, unfathomed chances, is the dear past to be repeated never? O supreme mother, crowned with blessed poppy, as well as myrtle, bring her here, or compass my soul with death, that elsewhere I may seek her. He ceased, and through the temple spread a mist, ambrosial, and above the shrine a star, serenely brightened, and a heavenly voice made sweet response. Love guides himself thy course. To thee last sea-girt rock, no worthy soul may ever truly seek, and fail to find. Still southward Orpheus journeyed, till he reached Cape Tenerus, the last bleak point of Greece, desolate o'er an infinite waste of waves, while sunset lit the western sea and sky with yellow floods of warm, diffusive light, kindling his serious face and earnest eyes, and glittering on his lyre. Long time he stood, and gazed upon the trouble of the waves, expectant of a word, a sign, and still no answer made the wild, indifferent sea. Impetuous, he smote his quivering lyre to reckless and sonorous melody, vibrating o'er the watery turbulence. Then far below its western bath the sun dipped and was gone, and all the sea was grey. Still through the air rang those imploring notes, unutterably plaintive, till there came, from out the ocean cave of Tenerus, the shining forms of Oceanides, with myriad faces raised supremely fair, and myriad arms that beckoned as he sang. Behold, astir amidst the frothing brine, as though upheaved by power submarine, in implicate confusion, wave on wave, then rose with windy manes and fiery eyes, proudly careering the immortal steeds, bearing within the shell-shaped car the god of august aspect and imperial port, with such profusion of ambrosial locks as curl around the very front of Zeus. He with benign regard the minstrel viewed, then whirling thrice his massy trident, struck the scarped promontory with its fork, and Orpheus felt the solid basis yield, and heard the hollow rumbling, as when earth rocks to her center, and high hills spit flame. And lo, he stood before a sulphurous throne, set in an open space, wherefrom there streamed 4 rivers stagnant, black. Here Hades reigned, his very presence unto mortal sense, oppressive as low thunder in the air. The triple-headed guardian of his realm crouched at his feet, and in the dismal murk the hideous harpies hovered o'er his head. The serpent-haired Eumenides stood near, brow bound with sanguine fillets, and the Fates wielded the distaff, spindle, and sharp shears. The air was dense with noisome influence, and shadowy apparitions seemed to float athwart the dusk. But on the infernal throne, conspicuous in beauty by her lord, Persephone was seated. Wonderment looked from her eyes, in seeing him, no god, who came before his time among the dead, unarmed with spear or shield, a glistening lyre nigh slipping from the loose grasp of his hands. Who comes unsummoned to my realm? Began the baleful godhead in discordant tones, widely reverberant, and the low, clear voice of Orpheus answered, one who would remain, if but the impotent body could be free to follow the desires of the soul. Orpheus, an unskilled singer, birth and death are preordained for thee, presumptuous man. What narrow space of time the fates accord, 'twould best become thee to bear worthily, with dignity, and leave the rest to them, the end as the beginning. Plead for me, O beautiful Persephone. Behold, Eurydice was snatched with violent hand from out mine eager arms, and I have sought her image o'er the peopled earth in vain. Then she, I may not summon her, nor hope to swerve the haughty purpose of my lord. With influence of thy familiar voice, if thou canst touch her spirit, she is thine. But Hades, who recalls the dead by prayer, they whose calm souls are once possessed by death, find such a solid joy in grasping firm after life's phantasms this reality, that wisdom, grief, nor love persuadeth them their liberated spirits to confine with fleshly limitations. Nathless sing, and prove life's glittering evanescence vain, outweighed by death's sublime security. Orpheus, I render thanks, eternal gods, that ye empower myself to call Eurydice. Man only can fulfill his own desire, and if I fail, the sorrow rests with me. Ye give what we deserve, I pray alone, ne'er to be cursed with what I have not won. and to whom else would I entrust my lyre, this supreme invocation to intone? But in myself I feel the love, the power, the lyric inspiration, while the flower of all my life brings forth its proper fruit, in this my loftiest, most godlike hour. If I could make ye feel the agony of thee strong man, O gods, condemned to see the light fail from dear eyes, the white lips mute, the elusive soul take flight eternally, to where we cannot follow it nor find, with the most subtle searchings of the mind, with the most passionate longings of the soul, deaf, unresponsive as the empty wind. Then would your pity as your power be, 'twould crown us all with immortality, and grace us with completeness, make us whole, worthy to be the peers of deity. For we are mighty now to slay and bless, yea, gifted with strange strength of steadfastness, to conquer bodiless and viewless foes within ourselves, yet in our helplessness, as children, in the presence of this death, whom nor revolt nor patience conquereth, implacable, with grim mouth fastened close, that with no hope our anguish answereth. Resound with wildest utterance, O my lyre, let each note be a living flame of fire, to reach her, to burn through her, to compel, strong with the infinite strength of my desire. I am no god, yet fate, Eurydice, a goddess for my slave hath given me, immortal music pure, ineffable, and I send her my handmaid after thee. If all wherein I put my faith is sure, be not delusions vain which death will cure, if the sublime reliance of the soul on her own powers be no empty lure, whereat the high gods laugh in bitter scorn, if what I have achieved and what forborne will lead me nearer to a worthy goal, if all life's promises be not forsworn, Eurydice, appear before mine eyes. O gods, I see a formless essence rise, that molds itself unto the music's beat, apparelled in the glory of the skies. Now, while I ring a more celestial tone, the spirit more divinely bright hath grown, to larger modulations, strains complete. The white limbs from the shapeless mist are won, as from the bosom of a summer cloud, wherewith a goddess would her semblance shroud. Is this mine own creation? Is it truth that with warm life I have blank air endowed? The soft cloud parts asunder, yea, 'tis she. Once more the face that was my star I see, crowned with the beauty of immortal youth. Eurydice, my lost Eurydice. Silent beside his silent fallen lyre, the singer stood, and clasped her in his arms, gazing upon this pale, fair face as one whose heart's supreme desire is satisfied. Is not this hour the hour I have foreseen, through all obstructions and infirmities of my mortality, and is it not more glorious in fruition than I dreamed? Yea, I have dreamed it all, eternal gods, even as now have pressed her to my heart, with the same clinging effort to retain, and seen this breathing form, these lucent eyes, vivid as now, instinct with life and love. Yet have I waked to chill discouragement, to vacant disappointment, and the sense of aching, unassuaged desire. O speak, for in my dreams I never hear thy voice, save veiled and indistinct, a mockery of the old limpid music. Speak to me. Thy flesh is warm, thy heart beats close to mine, thine upturned face is wet with human tears. O speak to me, lest I should wake again, to barren fields and empty skies of Thrace. Then in low natural tones, Eurydice, thy voice hath reached me in the farthest spheres, and waked me out of silence. Follow me. It is thyself. If I must wake from this, 'twill be to death or madness. Follow me from darkness palpable to earth, to light of ample skies and freshness of blown grass and rolling waters. Hold! The jarring voice of Hades interposed. 'Tis excellent, the attribute we gave thee, to convert to such a weapon as may overcome the old hereditary foes of man, sleep, death, corruption, and necessity, but to reveal thyself the peer of gods, not only through inspired ecstasy, but through a continent persistency. This never was accomplished by thy race, and thou must yet be tried. This soul is thine, for thou hast won her from the jaws of hell. Yea, she may follow thee as free as light. Lead thou the way and charm the hostile fiends. Look forward ever, if thine eyes revert, but once to gaze on her, to reassure unworthy fears, or sate a mean desire. Thou art not mate for us. She will dissolve to empty air, never to be recalled. Orpheus, back to the vital earth, O follow me, regained Eurydice, to rippling wellheads and to sunlit plains, greened by soft wash of rains. See orchards rosy with prolific bloom, and vineyards purple gloom, lulled by the languid flow of lilied streams. There will I sing my dreams. Behold, I chant a hymn of adoration, triumphant exaltation, for I can see in all the universe no error and no curse. The gods have not withheld, in power and sway, from him who will obey their own divine and everlasting laws. Above the world's applause, as vigorous as morning he can rise, wrest the desired prize from the clenched hands of Nemesis and fate. With victory elate, I chant unmitigated prayer and praise to gods who part our ways, seeing midst clamorous change incredible that all is ordered well. In more harmonious strains, O lyre, express my twice-born happiness. Yea, utter and translate with larger sense my rich experience that makes complete life's solemn threnody, joy unalloyed and free, grief unexampled, victory at last, when strife is overpast. Through pathways hedged but horrors still they fared, invulnerable. Darkness stayed them not, nor yet more dreadful light, revealing oft the hideous fiends who rose on every side, huge shapes of ill, to gaze upon the twain. A Greek who, fleeing, smote a vibrant lyre, that chimed to carols more divinely choired than those that fill with ravishment a grove, misty with moonlight, where the plain brown bird makes midnight vocal, closely following him, a woman with grave aspect, parted lips, upraising an enthralled ecstasy, large eyes serene, fulfilled but holier light, for having pierced beyond the boundaries of time and of mortality, the day shone through the murk at last, and filled their path with dusky sunbeams, and far-stretching fields of soft delicious green, and crystal skies, encouraged them, all perils past save one, but a black stagnant river crawled along, spanned by no bridge, and ferried by no sail, with muddy tide between the day and them. And Orpheus with enamored eyes passed on, and saw not how the loathsome waters crept, nor how his magic song enchanted them to solid substance, but he missed at once the footsteps light that had inspired his lay. Impetuous he turned to reassure his fearful soul, and sate his hungry eyes, but as he turned, the inspiration fled. His lips refused to frame the fruitless words. His eyes beheld, O gods, Eurydice, removed already far away from him, by all the wide expanded space between our loftiest dream and our unworthy deed. She gazed but no reproachful glance nor tears, and Orpheus felt himself beneath her fall momently down from empyreal heights. And lo, he stood within the fields of Thrace, on earth familiar, 'neath familiar skies, and heard a voice float through the shining air from unimaginable distances, faint as a dream. Farewell, farewell, farewell. Woe, woe! What lamentations may express the fullness of my new calamity? I, overbearing, who presumed to reach the lordly and severe stability of the immortals, whom may I invoke? To whom may man appeal when he hath failed unto himself? What god will interpose to thwart invincible necessity? Lost, lost forever! I stood elevated, for one brief moment dreaming I had won the skill and power of true divinity. Gods, with what lofty and superb disdain ye must look down on mine unworthy haste, ye who with grandeur of sublime repose and majesty of patience still abide, invariable through eternity. Alas! My mighty visions were to me auspicious omens, and they fed my heart with vigor and encouragement. But now this was no dream, for hope, full flushed and fair, born like the freshness of auroral dew, from unseen air, and traceless vanishing, consorts not with this mighty goddess, truth, with solemn and unfathomable eyes, for truth is one with death and destiny. With what a depth of meaning didst thou turn, for the last time, to me, Eurydice, a glory midst the darkness, with that glance of infinite compassion, hands outstretched, as if to save me from mine own defect. With what humiliation and despair I saw thee rising unattainably. The vault, the stream accursed, had disappeared. I was in Thrace up looking to the sky. Oh, to what harmonies I might have wed the blessed tidings which all men await. Now I can only make my song express a distant echo, a suggestion vague, of the serene contentment of thy voice. Sing this, my lyre, that all who hark to thee, with an attentive and a gentle ear, may hear the promise, faint and yet assured, recall the grace and the deliciousness of immortality, and strive anew towards the ideal unattained by me, yet still accessible to stronger souls. Thus, Orpheus, when the first wild burst of woe had passed, no need to seek her now, no need to wander o'er the peopled earth. Was he in truth a victim of the gods, or rather with a fairer fortune blessed than happier men, selected for a fate divinely tragical, that he might know the fullness of a life's experience, and find expression adequate for all, simple as wisdom and as dignified as silence? From his kind he lived apart, as one who cherishes a grief, nor seeks forgetfulness nor comfort, elevate to glittering eminence by destiny, and lonely through the privacy of woe, beyond the reaches of man's sympathy, where lucid Hebrus bathed its golden sands, he sat discoursing gracious harmonies amidst the morning fields, when on his ears sounded with hard dissonance the clang of smitten cymbals and the throb of drums. But still the revellers remained unseen, till, rounding suddenly a neighboring hill, the whole mad troop came dancing into sight. First marched the jovial bacchanal, who bore a crystal vessel decked with branching vine. Then youth and nymphs were ivy chapleted, in purfled raiment of hues delicate, with meters, thyrsi, cymbals, drums, and flutes, some bouncing upon their graceful heads, regal with crisp curled gold, their burdens light, of baskets heaped with figs and dusky grapes, and midst them all the sacrificial goat, adorned with berries. Thus the festal throng, with wanton gestures, and with antic bounds, and wild embracings, mad with wine approached, with peals of laughter echoing faintly back, from jocund hill to hill, and lusty shouts of Bacchae, Bacchae song. With wassail all the night, celestial Bacchus, we have worshipped thee, with riotous revel and with festal wine, still on the hills in early morning light, with frolic dances and brisk jollity, our hymns of praise are thine. For we have seen thee, God, the fawn skin slipping from thy shoulder bare, thy gestures lithe and loose, thine eyes that shine, thy rosy hands that wave the clustered rod of uncrushed grapes, and thine ambrosial hair, dripping with myrrh and wine. Thou art not strict, severe, like loftier gods and ruthless goddesses, implacable like Pallas, Zeus, or Truth, but to humanity akin and near, eager for folly and the luxuries of lustful health and youth. This crystal vialed balm, divinely brewed, soothing as Lethe streams, is the most generous gift of deity, informing us with soft oblivion calm of death and fate, with joys beyond the dreams of grave sobriety. Come, let us drink again. Resound, O timbrels, and thou bird-voiced flute. Thyrsus and pipes make shrill and clear acclaim to Bacchus, who empurples hill and plain, with vineyards bursting with increase of fruit, subtle as liquid flame. Evoa, quaff and sing. Who drinks no more offends the deity of Bacchus. Lo, on Hebrus's grassy brink, a minstrel sits, with gold lute glistening, marring our rites with stern solemnity, who doth not chant nor drink. Ho, Orpheus, laugh again from mirthful heart, and join our happy throng. cease to lament with unappeased desire. We bring a cordial for all grief and pain. Add to the choral strain thy siren song, and thine enchanted lyre. For fate hath answered thee, with cold derision, death respondeth not. Here is a god who soothes the soul and sense, with sweet nepenthe, thy Eurydice, thou wilt not lure to earthly grove nor grot, with suasive eloquence. Here nymphs no whit less fair are waiting thee with warm caressing arms, and loving eyes, lips fit for gods to kiss, and rosy shoulders, dimpling white and bare, pliant and graceful with innumerous charms, to sate thy heart with bliss. Orpheus, hence, thou ignoble throng! Dare ye profane the splendid purity, the high nobility of morn, with rites, lewd and disgusting, and delirious song, completing in clear sunshine shamelessly, rude orgies of wild nights? Bacchantes, ha! He insults the god with his presumptuous and impious scorn. Avenge, O Bacchanals, the cause divine. Compel him with the sacred cup and rod to quaff his salutation to the morn in frothing Massic wine. Orpheus, mad Bacchanals, be gone! I honor all the gods in Nemesis. They favor not such frantic revelry, but blameless lives and deeds most like their own. The service of a patient heart submiss, and staunch integrity. Behold the morning hills, sky-kissed Lebethra, delicate as air. The fragile grasses grey with wreaths of dew. Hark to the tumbling of the mountain rills. To Eos and Athena your first prayer and sacrifice are due. Bacchantes, what shameless blasphemy! He dares prescribe, O God, thy rank and fame. Enough, enough! He hath despised us long, bewailing his beloved Eurydice. O nymphs, avenge yourselves in Liber's name. Slay him midst dance and song. Your deadly javelins fling, with flinty missiles at the singer proud, who deems himself an equal of the gods, because he hath the skill to pipe and sing, with facile fluency of speech endowed. Smite him with spears and rods. Orpheus, ring forth my lyre again, with magic harmonies my doom avert, and tones as plaintive and as rich as life. Bacchantes, our stones and javelins we have hurled in vain. His lyre enchants them, he remains unhurt, midst all the wrath and strife. Toss the loud tambourine, its tight-drawn skin with noisy fingers smite. Clash ye the cymbals, sing what fatal art. Cast ye his sundered limbs to stream within. They irritate us, soft and bare and white. Rend them, O nymphs, apart. Orpheus, sweet death, deliver me out of the reach of envy, lust, and hate. Enfold me in thy large embracing arms. Bacchantes, ah! Will he now invoke Eurydice, madly resisting his allotted fate, with vile, unhallowed charms? So, with a clamorous swell of drums and timbrels, we o'erpower the breath of dulcet and persuasive melody. Orpheus, the maniacs conquer. O my lyre, farewell! Approach, thou beautiful and welcome death, with lost Eurydice. December 2nd, 1869. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Ozymandias by Percy Shelley. Read for LibriVox.org. I met a traveller from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions red, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hands that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear: My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look upon my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Punishment of Suicides by Thomas Hood. Read for LibriVox.org by mleigh. When would-be suicides in purpose fail, who could not find a morsel though they needed, if Peter sends them for attempts to jail, what would he do to them if they succeeded? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Rival of Fallopius by Eugene Lee Hamilton. Read for LibriVox.org by Arden. July 26, 2024. A Rival of Fallopius. Princeps jubet ut nobis dent hominem, quem nostra modo interficimus et ilium anatomisamus. Fallopius, A.D. 1550. He was undoubtedly awake, but where? As consciousness had gradually returned, it had at first assumed the shape of dreams. It seemed to him that in a block of ice his body was fast locked, and that in vain he tried to move his limbs, while chill on chill ran through his very marrow. That anon it seemed to be a coffin dark and cold, in which he was enclosed deep underground. And yet how could it be? His arms were stretched, like Christ's upon the cross. Was it a cross, to which he fast was nailed, a cross laid flat? For certainly he lay upon his back, and now was most undoubtedly awake. He felt his eyelids open in the dark. He gave a shout, and to his shout there came a sort of moan in answer, like the whine of some dumb dying animal, and then there rose a chorus of short wheezing yelps, unutterably frightful and grotesque. Where could he be? He tried to fix his thoughts, and recollect what things he last had seen, and where he last had stood. Where had it been? Ah, now he had it. Yes, he saw himself carelessly idle sitting on the wall, watching the lizards in the evening sun, peeping from holes and darting at the flies. And as he so was sitting, there had passed along the street a sickly-looking man, robed like a man of medicine or of law, who stopping with a nod had said, "My lad, I see thee daily sitting on this wall. Hast thou no work or calling? What's thy name?" That he had answered that his name was John, that as for work he cared not much for that, but loved the sun and nutting in the woods, that he oft earned a trifle by odd jobs, or running errands, and that then the man had said, "I have a job for thee to do. I will return and fetch thee after dark," which he had done and led him to a house, where he had given him to eat and drink. That then he had felt drowsy. This was all he could remember. Oh, how cold he felt, how cold and stiff. Again he tried to move, to burst the unseen bonds which held him down. He wore himself with shouting, all in vain. No answer came save that strange wheezing sound. By slow degrees he then became aware of something like a whiteness overhead, which faintly grew and seemed to be the light of morning such as it descends through cellar windows, and from out the gloom surrounding things emerged. What first he saw was his own body, white and wholly strapped down upon a table. Then the light, and creeping slowly onward to the left, showed him another form still indistinct, upon the selfsame table. Like himself, it lay upon its back, and seemed strapped down. The head alone moved ever and anon from side to side. It was smaller than a man. It surely was a woman or a child, but all deformed and like those goblin shapes which jutted from the old cathedral sides. He strained to see the features. Very strange the shape they took. How long appeared the face? The light increased. He saw it was a dog. From underneath its back a thin red rill was slowly trickling o'er the table's edge, where lay strange knives and tweezers, and oh God! He saw no more, could look no more. A weight of horror closed his eyes until a sound, as of a gently opening door, disturbed the silence of the place. He raised his lids. There stood that same bent, sickly-looking man, with high, bald forehead, and with thin white lips. A boundless joy o'erfilled the captive's heart. "Quick, quick," he cried, untie me, quick! Oh, quick, unstrap the thong! Who tied me down? What place is this?" But strange to say, the other answered not, nor nearer came, but going to a drawer some paces off, began to rummage slowly in its depths. And though the captive never ceased to call, seemed not to heed him. Only once he paused and fixed upon him one long, vacant look.
such as we fix on some inanimate thing when lost in thought. Oh Christ, what could it mean? Why did he stand and rummage in the drawer and not untie him? He who overnight had been so kind and friendly. And the joy, the hope of prompt release, began to change into a weird and undefinable fear. And when he saw him close the drawer at last, and silently approach, he straightway shrank. He knew not why. A thin white hand was laid upon the thong, but 'twas to readjust, to tighten, not to free. The captive saw, and understood the action, for he gave a sort of wail, and cried, "What have I done? What do you want? What is this dreadful place? Oh, let me go, I am an orphan lad, who lives from hand to mouth, and does no harm. This is a torture room. Oh, I will speak, but do not hurt me. I will answer all. I will reveal. The man, who until now had seemed absorbed in thought, mute and as unattentive to his words as to the fitful moaning of the dog, upon his human captive fixed his eyes, where flashed a sudden fervor, and exclaimed half to himself, "Reveal, aye, that thou shalt. Thou shalt reveal inestimable truths, of which thou knowest nothing. Thou shalt tell secrets unknown to men, but guessed by me. Thou shalt confirm what these dumb dogs have told, beneath the scalpel. Thou shalt be the last and chiefest witness." And he laid his hand upon the heap of little shining knives which lay upon the table. Strange and vague as were his words, the victim understood their terrible significance. They meant the imminence of torture, for he burst into a loud and deafening appeal, for help, for mercy, for delay. He yelled for God, for men. He shouted and he sobbed. He prayed, he threatened, offered to reveal he knew not what, betray he knew not whom. God answered not. The man seemed not to hear the ever louder, ever wilder cries, which shook the vault, but paced the room in thought. "Must he be gagged?" he muttered. "It impedes the action of the organs. With the gag he will not last so long. But I foresee his unfamiliar and articulate yells will make my hand unsteady, will distract my mind in ticklish moments, and defeat my nicest observations. Shall I cut his vocal organs? That hath objections too, which on the whole are greater." And he took a gag from out a case. But with a roar, like some wild beast, the captive bit his hand just as he placed the gag upon his mouth. The pain was great, it made him clench his teeth, and stand one moment helpless. But what made his brow contract was pain alone, not wrath. No word escaped him, and his face put on, almost at once, his former look again, inexorably placid. He resumed the process with more caution. When 'twas o'er, and not a sound could pass the captive's lips, he washed his bitten hand and bound it up, and as he did so muttered to himself, "'Tis lucky 'tis the left, his teeth are sharp. He bites, methinks he almost bart. Oh, who shall draw the line betwixt this man, this human animal who nothing knows of what makes man immortal, and this dog, that he can shriek for mercy? And the dog, hath he not shrieked for mercy long and loud, that he can call on an unhelpful God? So doth the dog perchance, if we but knew. That he hath got a soul, I doubt it much, but granting for a moment that he hath, he's by so much the luckier than the dog, who suffers and relapses into naught. Oh, prejudice, if I did let thee speak, and stop my hand on this auspicious day, when I can verify the work of years, I were not what I am. Aye, 'tis well that 'twas the left he bit. Ye little dream, ye proud protected slaves who dub me quack, how soon ye shall be humbled. Have a care, Fallopius, thou that thinkest thou art safe, because the Tuscan Duke gives thee alone live convicts to thy sect. A man like me finds other ways, so crow not over loud. My day at last has come." He then approached once more the table where his victim lay, surveyed him for a while, and felt his pulse, then raised his eyes towards the hole through which the scanty light descended, falling straight upon the naked body, and began to pace the cellar slowly up and down, probably waiting for the light to grow, as morning should advance. No sound was heard except the measured creaking of his step, and through the tight compression of the gag, the other's stifled breathing, up and down and up and down. At first no sign betrayed the workings of his mind, but by and by, just like a laden cloud about to burst, which ever and anon lets slip a flash, he, laden with excitement long repressed, gave vent to muttered words with flashing eye and rapid gestures, till at last his thoughts,
poured forth coherent though he spoke them low and hurriedly, as if before some judge whom he alone could see, and who, to hear, needed no louder pleading. Who forbids? Who dares to step between this deed and me? 'Tis God, perchance. Then let him first restrain the dark destructive forces he has made. First let him order that the deep no more shall every year engulf 1,000 crews. First let him chain the whirlwind or appease the tiger's inborn rage, and put an end to nature's countless crimes. Or is it man, and man alone? He strews his battlefields, year after year, with heaps of mangled dead, without a why or wherefore. He doth let his inconvenient rivals rot away in dungeon cells that he may sleep at ease, or roll in wealth and power. Shall he dare to grudge me what I need? A single life for science, for the only thing I love on this wide earth. And do I not deserve to be at last rewarded? I whose life has been one boundless sacrifice, whose sight is prematurely dim from midnight work, whose back is bent from stooping o'er this workboard, whose youth knew not of pleasure, but was spent in solitary study, in the track of war and plague and famine, and where'er disease and death were teachers, and whose prime has gone in seeking knowledge in the corpse, and in live dogs. Yea, did I not begin by trampling with a firm, relentless foot on my own nature, making nerves as weak as any woman's, stand the sight of things from which the sickened hangman, growing pale, would turn away? Is there a risk, however great, which I have feared to run, to get the bodies which the law refused? Have I not snatched the newly buried dead, and braved the dread resentment of despair, of mourning lovers and of outraged sons? Have I not prowled at midnight with the wolf about the gallows, where had I been caught, I should myself have dangled? Year by year have I not thief-like skulked from town to town, from land to land, pursued with stones and jeers, until the very houses seemed to hoot as I slunk by? And such a life as mine is to be cheated of its sole reward, to save the squeaks of such a thing as this, which thinks not, reads not, writes not, knoweth not of noble speculations, and but cares for sunshine and for nutting in the woods, like any squirrel. Granted, he's a man, but in his vitals lies concealed the drop of knowledge which I thirst for with a thirst more irresistible than is the lust for woman, or for power, or for gold. Is not all nature framed upon the plan of strength devouring weakness? Shall I be more kind than nature? He is in mine hands, and mine is his existence, by the right of paramount intelligence and power. And if mankind should ever learn this deed, would it avenge it for the victim's sake, or from its own intolerable fear of a like fate? Would it avenge the dog who lies on yonder table? O mankind, thy charity is great. And now to work. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Song of the Sea Wind by Lucy Maud Montgomery. Read for LibriVox.org by Katie T. January 2025 in Ontario. When the sun sets over the long blue wave, I spring from my couch of rest, and I hurtle and boom over leagues of foam that toss in the weltering west. I pipe a hymn to the headlands high, my comrades forevermore, and I chase the tricksy curls of foam o'er the glimmering sandy shore. The moon is my friend on clear white nights, when I ripple her silver way, and whistle blithely about the rocks, like an elfin thing at play. But anon I ravin with cloud and mist, and wail 'neath a curdled sky, when the reef snarls yawn like a questing beast, and the frightened ships go by. I scatter the dawn across the sea, like wine of amber flung, from a crystal goblet all far and fine, where the morning star is hung. I blow from the east, and I blow from the west, wherever my longing be. The wind of the land is a hindered thing, but the ocean wind is free. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Sound of the Sea by Felicia Hemans. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Thou art sounding on, thou mighty sea, forever and the same. The ancient rocks yet ring to thee, those thunders naught can tame. O many a glorious voice is gone from the rich bowers of the earth, and hushed is many a lovely one of mournfulness or mirth. The Dorian flute that sighed of yore along the wave is still. The harp of Judah peals no more on Zion's awful hill. And Memnon's lyre hath lost the chord that breathed the mystic tone, and the songs that Rome's high triumphs poured are with her eagles flown. And mute the Moorish horn that rang o'er stream and mountain free, and the hymn that leagued crusaders sang hath died in Galilee. But thou art swelling on, thou deep, through many an olden clime, thy billowy anthem ne'er to sleep until the close of time. Thou liftest up thy solemn voice to every wind and sky, and all our earth's green shores rejoice in that one harmony. It fills the noontide's calm profound, the sunset's heaven of gold, and the still midnight hears the sound, even as first it rolled. Let there be silence deep and strange where sceptred cities rose. Thou speakest of one who doth not change. So may our hearts repose. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. To Peter Pan in Winter by Catherine Hale. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. And so it was arranged that Peter Pan should fly back alone to Fairyland, and that once a year Mrs. Darling would allow Wendy to go and stay with him for a whole week to do his spring cleaning. Spring house cleaning in Arcady, when every bough is bare. If it bring Wendy back to me, I wish, quoth Pan, 'twere here. For Peter Pan is sometimes sad, in spite of all that's sung. He has to pipe and dance like mad to keep this old world young. And as he pipes, the fairies light a star for every tone. Do starry lights burn just as bright when one is all alone? And as he pipes, small elfin folk foregather from the moon, and dance and flash and fade like smoke while he plays on and on. His magic treetops shine with ice that used to melt in green. The people creep like small brown mice down in the worlds between. And Wendy may be well or ill, and play or go to school. But Pan sits high and pipes his fill, and minds no mortal rule. O Peter Pan, the winds are cold, the snow is deep and high, the never land is gold, and yet perhaps you sigh. Perhaps you know, though just an elf, in your small fairy way, how wretched one is by himself when someone else can't stay. So pipe your sweetest, Peter Pan, and clang the silver bells. Send all the elfin din you can to where the Great One dwells, who holds the spring within his hand, that you who wait above, and we in this midwinter world, may call again to love. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar. Read for LibriVox.org by Val Roth. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but, oh Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet, and long the mile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Where is David, the Next King of Israel by Vashel Lindsay. Read for LibriVox.org by Julie Ann Thompson. Where is David, O God's people? Saul is past, the good and great. Mourn for Saul, the first anointed, head and shoulders o'er the state. He was found among the prophets, judge and monarch merged in one, but the wars of Saul are ended, and the works of Saul are done. Where is David, ready shepherd, God's boy king for Israel? Mystic, ardent, dowered with beauty, singing where still waters dwell? Prophet, find that destined minstrel wandering on the range today, driving sheep and crooning softly psalms that cannot pass away. David waits, the prophet answers, in a black notorious den, in a cave upon the border with 400 outlaw men. He is fair and loved of women, mighty-hearted, born to sing, thieving, weeping, erring, praying, radiant, royal rebel king. He will come with harp and psaltery, quell his troop of convict swine, quell his mad dog roaring rascals, witching them with words divine. They will ram the walls of Zion. They will win us Salem Hill. All for David, shepherd David, singing like a mountain rill. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Whither Must I Wander by Robert Louis Stevenson. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston, Tharp. Home, no more home to me, whither must I wander? Hunger my driver, I go where I must. Cold blows the winter wind over hill and heather, thick drives the rain, and my roof is in the dust. Loved of wise men was the shade of my roof tree. The true word of welcome was spoken in the door. Dear days of old, with the faces in the firelight, kind folks of old, you come again no more. Home was home then, my dear, full of kindly faces. Home was home then, my dear, happy for the child. Fire in the windows bright glittered on the moorland. Song, tuneful song, built a palace in the wild. Now, when day dawns on the brow of the moorland, lone stands the house, and the chimney stone is cold. Lone let it stand, now the friends are all departed, the kind hearts, the true hearts that loved the place of old. Spring shall come again, calling up the moorfowl. Spring shall bring the sun and rain, bring the bees and flowers. Red shall the heather bloom over hill and valley. Soft flow the stream through the even-flowing hours. Fair the day shine as it shone on my childhood. Fair shine the day on the house with open door. Birds come and cry there and twitter in the chimney. But I go forever and come again no more. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Will by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Roger Smith. There is no chance, no destiny, no fate can circumvent or hinder or control the firm resolve of a determined soul. Gifts count for nothing, will alone is great. All things give way before it, soon or late. What obstacle can stay the mighty force of the sea-seeking river in its course, or cause the ascending orb of day to wait? Each well-born soul must win what it deserves. Let the fool prate of luck. The fortunate is he whose earnest purpose never swerves, whose slightest action or inaction serve the one great aim. Why, even death stands still and waits an hour sometimes for such a will. End of recording. This recording is in the public domain.
William Tell by Harry Graham. Read for LibriVox.org by Tony Scheinman. All persons who, by way of joke, point loaded guns at one another, a state of things which ends in smoke and murder of an aunt or brother, will find that it repays them well to note the tale of William Tell. He was a patriotic Swiss, whose skill was such with bow and arrow, he never had been known to miss a target, howsoever narrow. His archery could well defy the needle or the camel's eye. And when the hated Austrian invaded his beloved country, this simple man at once began to treat the foe with calm effrontery, and gave a sporting exhibition, to which he charged 10 cents admission. He set his son against a tree, upon his head an apple placing, next measured paces 33, and turned about, his offspring facing, then chose an arrow, drew his bow, and all the people muttered, "Oh!" No sound disturbed the morning air. You could have heard a tea-tray falling, save in the virgin forest where a chipmunk to his mate was calling, where sang the giddy martingale, or snaffle wooed the genial quail. But, drowning cry of beast or bird, there rose the hush of expectation. No whispered converse, not a word from the surrounding population. A tactful silence as of death, while people held each other's breath. The bow rang out, the arrows sped. Before a man could turn completely, all scatheless shone the offspring's head. The apple lay divided neatly. The 10-cent public gave a roar, and apoplectic shrieked, "Encore!" They kissed the hero, clasped his hand, in search of autographs pursued him, escorted with the local band, cheered, banqueted, and interviewed him, demanding how he shot so well. But simple William would not tell. The Austrians, without a word, retired at once across the border, and thence on William they conferred 2 medals and a foreign order, and, tactfully addressed the bill, Hereditary Archduke Will. And, in the piping times of peace, such luxury his life was wrapped in, he got the chiefship of police, and made his son a precinct captain, wore celluloid white cuffs and collars, and absolutely rolled in dollars. Still to the end, whenever Will with fiscal problems had to grapple, he called to mind his offspring's skill at balancing the homely apple, and made him use his level head at balancing accounts instead. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Winter Roses by John Greenleaf Whittier. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. In reply to a flower gift from Mrs. Putnam's school at Jamaica Plain. My garden roses long ago have perished from the leaf-strewn walks. Their pale, fair sisters smile no more upon the sweet briar stalks. Gone with the flower time of my life, spring's violets, summer's blooming pride, and nature's winter and my own stand flowerless side by side. So might I yesterday have sung, today, in bleak December's noon, come sweetest fragrance, shapes, and hues, the rosy wealth of June. Bless the young bands that called the gift, and bless the hearts that prompted it. If undeserved it comes, at least it seems not all unfit. Of old, my Quaker ancestors had gifts of 40 stripes save one. Today, as many roses crown the gray head of their son. And with them, to my fancy's eye, the fresh-faced givers smiling come, and 39 happy girls make glad a lonely room. They bring the atmosphere of youth, the light and warmth of long ago are in my heart, and on my cheek the airs of morning blow. O buds of girlhood yet unblown, and fairer than the gift ye chose, for you may years like leaves unfold the heart of Sharon's rose. 1883. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Worker by Auric Johns. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. She sits where piles of breeches shut in the poisoned air, while you are at the beaches, and I am at the fair. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Work Without Hope by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Recorded for LibriVox by Bartholomew Begley. Dublin, January 2025. All nature seems at work. Slugs leave their lair. The bees are stirring, birds are on the wing. And winter, slumbering in the open air, wears on his smiling face a dream of spring. And I, the while, the sole unbusy thing, nor honey make, nor pair, nor build, nor sing. Yet well I ken the banks where amaranths blow have traced the fount whence streams of nectar flow. Bloom, O ye amaranths, bloom for whom ye may. For me ye bloom not, glide rich streams away. With lips unbrightened, wreathless brow I stroll, and would you learn the spells that drowse my soul? Work without hope draws nectar in a sieve, and hope without an object cannot live. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
"47" by Anachron, translated by Thomas Stanley. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. Young men dancing, and the old sporting, I would joy behold. But an old man, gay and free, dancing most I love to see. Age and youth alike he shares, for his heart belies his hairs. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Year by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Roger Smith. The Year. What can be said in New Year rhymes that's not been said 1,000 times? The New Year's come, the old years go. We know we dream, we know. We rise up laughing with the light. We lie down weeping with the night. We hug the world until it stings. We curse it then and sigh for wings. We live, we love, we woo, we wed. We wreath our brides, we sheet our dead. We laugh, we weep, we hope, we fear, and that's the burden of the year. End of recording. This recording is in the public domain.